All right, Alfred, thanks for coming.
Thank you for allowing me to go. This is an awesome opportunity, man.
So you're from New Jersey. Well, you're living in New Jersey.
Yep,
right.
From New Jersey too. Yeah, so
Born and raised.
Yeah,
Yeah, I was just saying before we started that I just came from New York City last night, so I probably
right up the highway. Yeah. Was that construction still going on?
yes.
Yeah, worse. We get through all the traffic, and then
one lane.
then I go up, and I'm like, oh, this is a beautiful highway. I'm just gonna cruise for what does it say, 130 miles, and then it's like prepare to stop, and I'm like, for what? And they're milling the road up in the middle of the night, and
Yeah. For 22 minutes we were in that, which isn't a huge deal, but
no, it got me to focus on your episode a little bit more. So
Cool.
I was like halfway through, and I'm like, all right, I can watch it now because I'm in brake lights.
Which
so.
one did you listen to?
I listened to, I was off and on to a lot, but I heard Katie Matthews. I'm going to screw his name up, but the New York cop, because of his experience, it was relatable to me.
Oh, yeah.
Pompanelli or something.
Yeah.
New York City cop.
Yeah.
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 Him. And then the grooming one, because like I said, my wife's a groomer, so I got into that one. That was really cool too. So yeah, I just bounced around all of them. Yeah.
Cool. Yeah, I want to hear your story. So I know you have a book, which we'll talk about later, but I want to hear your story from firsthand. You know, the things that you've done in your life. And it does, when I like to talk to people, I talk to people that I'm interested in, right? And so I think your email came through, and my grandfather was a World War II Marine veteran.
Jeez.
Yeah, we were. So he was in Iwo Jima, and he just told me stories, and I was young, not crazy stories, obviously.
Yeah, they didn't talk about it back then.
No, and he was just telling me, of stories of him going up on the beach, and the people were in like the palm trees, and he said it was wild. He's no longer with us, but he was. Marines are like the proudest, it seems, in the military forces.
Oh yeah.
Like
it gets him in trouble, of course. Yeah.
He would wear, he'd have the Marine hat.
Yeah.
The patch on the Marine hat.
With the pins.
Yes, the pins, yes. He'd have the Marine tie. He had a big jean jacket with the big crest on the back.
Oh, cool.
He was Marined out. And any time that he would see a Marine or vice versa, he'd always have conversations, and he had his Marine buddies. And it's like this brotherhood that I don't want to call, civilians, I guess, don't really ever understand, especially if you've actually been in combat, right?
Absolutely, yeah.
So why don't you just walk through and kind of tell your story about, the email that you sent me, say, hey.
Right. How we got here?
Yeah. I'd really like to hear your story and the things that you've gone through as a human, because I think that's like the most interesting thing to me outside of what piqued my interest in the email, because we get emails all the time about podcast guests, and even, you were like, I wanted to do it, and then I got, busy, had a kid, and I'm glad that you reached back out to nudge me and say, hey, let's do this. So obviously, why don't you just go ahead?
Yeah. So, again, I appreciate this opportunity. Like you said, I'm sure you get a million of them. And that's why, all I do now is just submit emails all day. It's like, what did you do all day? I spent 100 emails, because you're going to get that one. So that's how we got here. But the reason this all came about, with the book or my military history was, just like anybody, I went to not anybody, but I went to Catholic school my whole life. So once we were, 8th grade, going to high school, it's like, where you going? Go to Catholic school again. It was just that whole thing. You don't change it. So me and most of our class went to this, Catholic high school over on the beach, and this particular school was 100%. They had this whole 40-year streak of you're going to college. Everybody went 100%. So when I had to go, I was like, I don't know what I want to do. I have no idea. I wanted to do artsy stuff. I was always big into kind of drawing and creative things. I wasn't good at school. I got good grades, but I hated the structure. I like to think outside the box and, do things that were different or always be challenged. So I was like, well, I don't know what I want to do. And next thing you know, I'm in a recruiter's office. It was the one where they have everybody, the Air Force in the front, the Army, this and that. And then you got the Marine guy sitting there. He's the only one working this day. So I just show up. No one else to talk to. And he's like, get in here. So we start talking. And he's like, well, you want to do the Marines? And I'm like, not really. I just wanted to explore my options. I heard you pay for college. Because if I'm going to do it, I want someone to pay for it, because obviously it's expensive, way more now. But I was like, I want someone to actually like pay for it. So they're all right, let's sit down. They put like the blocks on the table. They're like, all right, I want you to put your life in order. Like, what's the priority? Travel. They have like these little cubes, and it's like
They're all labeled.
Yeah, like labeled cubes, and they like make it like a game. Like, what's your most thing you want to do? I was like, travel. That looks cool. And he's like, college, pay for college. He's like, boom, I got this kid, and it's like life experience, the whole thing.
What age were you?
I was 18.
18.
So yeah,
Okay.
I was 8. Actually, I was like 17 because I did it right before my senior year. Because like you have to apply for college that summer. They wanted to get everybody's applications in. So I joined like the DEP program, which is like the delayed entry program. So when you're in high school, you can still be like signed up. So you can go through high school. They make you do like drills on the weekends and stuff, like make sure you're physically fit. Because some guys aren't, they want you ready for boot camp. So I did this thing. So I'm talking to the guy, and he's like, "What do you want to do?" And I'm like, "Well, I think I'm gonna do this." He's like, "Cool, got this, guy." So I go through high school, but now they're mad. They're like, "We want 100% at college acceptance," so they make me apply to a community college just to have that thing. So I applied to the community college the whole bit. Graduate, it's June, right? And then I'm signed up to go to boot camp August 7th. So I had a summer because I planned that out nice. The guy's like, "When do you want to leave?" I'm like, "I'm not leaving the day after graduation, like I'm going have a little bit of a summer." I left August 7th. I signed up to be a military policeman because I figured if I'm going to do something, I want some sort of experience and training that's going to translate to the civilian world. I wasn't planning on doing this forever. Like it was just a 4-year deal, have the experience, put the training through, and then I'd be able to be a cop when I got out because that was something I was always interested in. No dog stuff is in the picture at this point. It's not even close. So I became a cop, go through the training, we go through boot camp, the whole thing, combat training. Then we get sent to Fort Leonard Wood, Missouri, which is the military police school.
So is this before? Is this before you? So you graduated high school.
Yep.
Went into police academy before?
No, you go right into boot camp. So everybody, no matter what, like every single Marine, they say once Marine, always Marine. Everybody's the same. Yeah. So you go to boot camp, 90-something days. It's like 3 months, the longest one, which was tough because it's like you don't get to talk to anybody. It's not like some other boot camps. You're allowed to make phone calls on Sunday, all that stuff. Like you get one phone call when you get to boot camp. And I don't know if you've seen videos or whatever about boot camp, but like, they running off the bus and they're all screaming at you. And there's a bunch of telephones lined up. And they say, all right, you have one phone call, make a phone call. And there's a script. And you're supposed to call home to your mommy and daddy and be like, "I made it. This is so-and-so recruit. I made it to boot camp. This is where I'm at." Yeah. And then,
wow.
But my dad said, if you call me in the middle of the night, I'm going to be mad. So I didn't call anybody. I just pretended. I was like, I'm not going to do like, that's stupid, But the kids are like crying. They're like, "Yeah, man, I made it to boot camp."
Wow.
Yeah. So anyway, so it's like a little funny thing. But yeah, they make you call. Last phone call you get the whole time.
Is that, you think that's like it's got to be like a psychological?
Absolutely. Definitely psychological because they want to really make you feel like this is their last chance to talk to mommy and daddy. Like you're not, you're here.
Yeah.
So like
you're mine.
Yeah, you're mine. Like I had that mentality like leaving right when I left. I'm like, I know I'm not coming back. And I had a girlfriend at the time. So that was tough, I was like, I don't know how to do it. And I'm like, felt bad for her. Like she's still in high school. Like
She was 3 months in boot camp?
Yeah, 3 months.
Yeah.
Yeah. And like you can write letters, obviously. It's like, old school stuff. You're in Foot Locker writing letters and stuff. So I was able to do that. And my girlfriend stayed with me, she was amazing. And we would have this idea because the mail was so horrible. So like we would just write a week of just like a journal, you know what I mean? Like what we did each day. So every week we're looking forward to getting a letter instead of like, "Hey, what are you up to?" And then the next letter comes, it's like, you know what I mean? So
Not much, you?
yeah, yeah, right.
Yeah.
It's not like nowadays. Now we got people texting during the middle of a war zone, Like yeah. So that's what they kind of set you up
Streaming,
for.
even.
Yeah, literally. My brother's in Syria right now. We FaceTime the other day. Like he's got Wi-Fi and everything. So
Wow.
yeah. So it's crazy. But yeah, so we did the boot camp thing. Everybody goes through it. You graduate. Then from there they send you to Marine combat training, and everybody does that who has just a regular job. But like infantry guys go through their own infantry because that's their job. They just do like 6 months of infantry school. So we all go to this Marine combat training where they teach you to like dig a foxhole, where you're like, sitting in the hole and like pretending to get shot at, the whole thing, expose you to combat stuff. So you do that for like 30 days. And then at the end of that, they announce where you're going to school. So the guy would stand up, be like, "All right, your orders are going to this school. You guys are going to this school." Now you got kids crying because this kid's like, "I wanted to be a cop." But the recruiter didn't put the designator on. Like sometimes they can do something called open contract. So like they'll write it in there, but then they can go anywhere the Marine Corps wants you to go. So this one kid was like in our thing, he's like, I was supposed to be a cop. Like, no, you're gonna be corrections instead.
Wow.
Yeah. So he thought he was gonna be in a police car. Now he's gonna be working in a jail. So people were like freaking out. But luckily I had a good recruiter. He wrote 5811, which is the designator for a cop. You know, so then from there, me and a couple other buddies, we went to military police school, which is in Fort Leonard Wood, worst place on earth. Like, it's horrible. I don't know if you've been to Missouri. Yeah, don't go.
Hot, probably.
Yeah, that's the problem. It's super hot, but then it's covered in ice, like in the winter. Like, so when we got there in January or December, and snow, it was like raining. It was horrible. It was like the worst place ever. And it actually stopped our training a lot because they had these big ice storms, and we were supposed to do like eval driving, like where you're driving around in a cop car doing like donuts and stuff. We can't do that on ice. So like we didn't even get a chance to do that. So fun fact, I never sat in a cop car my entire time in the Marine Corps.
Wow.
And I was a cop. Yeah.
So what's the difference between when you go to military police school? I mean, I'm sure that there's difference in the environment.
Yeah.
Like you're going to be a military police officer on a base, I would assume. And obviously the difference of I don't know, I don't know what you want to call it, like a street cop. I don't know.
Yeah, that's what we call it. Yeah, a street cop. You're essentially a cop, but for the military.
So it's just different school for different training.
Yeah, it's like, yeah, exactly. Like it's almost the same training. Like from what I heard, like the police academy people go through, like it's very similar to what we do. Like they do all the same stuff. It's just some of it's tailored to military, but a lot of it's, like armbar takedowns, how to hold a weapon. You walk around with the blue belt on with the fake gun the whole time. It's like all cop stuff. So that's very, very similar to a regular cop.
The only thing I can think of is that lady from the Secret Service that couldn't holster her gun.
Yeah, oh my.
She didn't go through that, I don't think.
No, I don't know if she went through any training. That was like a big deal. And of course, all my cop buddies and I have this old vet guy. He's like, "Oh, I can't do it." Like,
yeah,
what? Like seriously, because that's like day one. Like
day one,
just
right?
do this all day long.
See, that's interesting because that in my head, when you see this stuff right on the news, and it's like the Secret Service, you would think is top tier, like level training, and that's what I'm thinking. I'm like, there's got to be guys and girls out there that can do that in their sleep.
Yeah,
like they can
there's definitely an 11-year-old kid in Kentucky that can do that. Like maybe 8 years old. You know what I mean? Like you see the kid, like
that's wild.
It's insane, and it's sad. I mean,
I don't think
if we keep going, this might we go down a rabbit hole for this for sure.
But I just don't think she went through that program.
I don't know. But then you have people who, just like lose their minds in the midst of chaos, right? Like
adrenaline.
Even if you did all the training and you're practicing it, which I know she didn't, but if you do that training, once that happens in real life, it goes right out the window. Like you just lose it because you haven't been exposed to that.
The realness,
right? Like just going to dog training. If you just do sit down, stay in like this perfect scenario, but then you do it by a street, it's not going to happen. You know what I mean? Like it's a totally different, so it's like exposure to those things. So yeah, so we go through, that's what they try to do. Basic training, they try to expose you to those things. Right. But it's all basic, like you said. You don't get to that high level stuff. Like for instance, like one time, you get complacent too. Like in military police school, because it's the military, we had to do like field training. So we went out to like the field, which is they take you out the Humvees. So you're not in the cop car, you're in a Humvee. Because overseas, that's what you would do as a cop. You do like protection or like security detail. So it was the first time I ever had to hold like, we have blanks and stuff, but we're all like loaded up. We're doing these missions, and I'm in the woods, and I have this like saw, which is this giant like machine gun, and it's got the belt, you know what I mean, where you're shooting it and it just shoots all the stuff out, you know what I mean, like automatic. So I'm laying on the ground, and I'm just like getting complacent, and I'm just like laying there, and all of a sudden I hear, I'm like, holy, what just happened? I just shot off my gun like in the middle of the woods. I've never gotten in so much trouble in my entire life. The guy came up, grabbed my neck, threw me up, like threw the gun off to the side. He's like, yeah, blah, blah, blah. So he made me carry a giant stick for the next like 2 weeks. He went and found the biggest stick, and I was holding it like this. I'd get in a Humvee with this giant stick. Yeah, because they want you to feel embarrassed. Like, don't ever do that again. Like, serious.
What happened?
Like, it's a very sensitive thing, and if you touch the trigger, like that's why trigger discipline, like keep your finger off. If you touch the trigger, like 7 rounds will just go out.
And that's why.
Yeah, that's what happened. I might have just, thank God. Yeah, I might have just hit a tree, but still, we were just like, it was the scariest moment of my life, So, because I knew it was bad. Like, that's the stuff. But this is what you're talking about. Like, you got to know, you know? So, if she carried around a stick every once in a while, that probably wouldn't have happened.
Could you imagine
right?
if that girl Like for the next 2 weeks, the media followed her, and she just got like a little toy gun, like a little orange,
like in
stick.
the Other Guys.
Yeah.
You know, I'm gonna give you this wooden gun.
Exactly. She's got like the little like cap gun you get at like Cracker Barrel.
Little rubber band.
That's what they should have done.
Yeah.
For
So you
punishment.
embarrass the
There.
heck out of her. I don't think they did anything. She probably got promoted.
Get better, lady.
Yeah.
So after that, after you went, you're still 18.
Yeah, like 19. So like, and actually it's interesting. I'm pretty sure it's accurate. In order to be a cop, you have to be 19. So some of the other jobs, like a desk job or anything else, you can be 18. But I think, and I'm pretty sure you have to be 19 when you graduate military police school. Like a cop has to be 19 for some reason, probably because you're carrying a gun. Like,
Yeah.
I don't know. Because we're the only ones who carry a pistol. So that's why everybody just gets qualified on the range with like the M4 or whatever. But we have to be qualified as a pistol because we carry that too. So that might be why. I don't know. But yeah, so I'm in military police school. So once you get through that, during that process, they have other jobs, right? So in law enforcement, you know, you got like CID or NCIS or, you know, K9, you know, all these special billets, right? So we're in MP school and the staff sergeant like halfway through is like, who wants to do K9? Because it's a volunteer only operation. You can't just like get put there. And I'm like, K9? Like, that sounds horrible. Like, I hated dogs. Like, my wife had like 4 at her house. And when we go in there, they're all barking, you know what I mean? The door opens, you get attacked, there's hair everywhere. And I'm like, I never grew up with a dog, so I'm like, that sounds horrible. And then he's like, well, you get air conditioning overseas. And I'm like, okay. Well,
Nice.
yeah. I'll try it, you know what I mean? Like, my wife likes dogs, you know, I'll do that, I'll do it. So I volunteered. So I wrote my essay, and the first line of my essay is, I've never had a dog before in my life. So I got in trouble for that. They're like, why would you want to do this if you've never had a dog? And I'm like, because I like to challenge myself. You know, I just figure it's a good challenge. You know, it's a good push. So if you're approved based on your scores and everything, like you have to have certain PT score, you know, your grades, then you get accepted. I think in our class there was 6 that went. So 6 of us, once we graduated, went to K9 school. So imagine we're in the military now for like a year and we haven't even gotten to the military. Like we're just constantly training. So we went from Fort Leonard Wood, Missouri, which was like to us the worst place on earth. Now it's about April, and we're sent to San Antonio, Texas. You know, so first day out on the Riverwalk, we're like, this place is amazing because that's where the dog school is. It's down there at Lackland. So it was a completely different environment change. Like everything changed for us. And then you're not just dealing with cop stuff, it's dog stuff. So the whole thing was just like a mind, like the first time you walk through those kennels, because they have like thousands of dogs there, you know, and they have the old concrete, you know, like thick walls, big cages. And as soon as you go in there, all you hear is this thunderous roar of barking and green tag, red tag, red tag, red tag, green tag. And I'm like, what are all these red tags for? And they're like, don't even go near that cage. Like, you're going to die. So, like, that was a serious, like, wake up call. Like,
Yeah, these aren't your
getting into.
These aren't your wife's.
Nah, they're
not
not
your wife's dogs.
Yeah,
coming
and I
to
was
greet you.
bothered by them just.
Right.
Yeah. So then the first time, so luckily in K9 school they don't give you a dog right away. They give you know what an ammo can is? The green box that like people open up. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
it's like a little tackle box.
yeah, like a little tackle box. It's a metal one, pretty big. We had the big like 30, like the big ones. They tie a leash to it with a choke chain and they make you walk that around, like drag it on the floor and do commands for like a week or 2.
Wow.
So you're attached to a can because they want to make sure you know leap manipulation and hooking the collar up, you know, little basic stuff. Could you imagine just giving a random person a dog that,
Right.
for me, like never handed one? So I was happy with my can. We became really close, you know?
Yeah.
Listen to everything I said.
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
So your can was there anything in there, or is it just like a
It was
metal
your grooming supplies. So like you would put all your gear in there and then you'd carry that around. So they give you like a brush and like, you know, I think it was like a slicker rake and, you know, like extra choke chain, stuff like that. So it was like your gear can. But yeah, and then we never have to groom the can, but that came later. Yeah. So I think we're on cans for, I say 2 weeks, but it might have been like 4 days because that would be a waste of time. I think it was like 2 or 3 days, half a week. Get the basic commands down, and then you get assigned a dog. And then that's just where it takes off, you know? So like they break K9 school up into 2 portions where it's half patrol work. So you start with basic obedience, obviously, and then the bite work. And they want to make sure you get exposed to that first, and then it goes into the detection part because that's like a whole different area. And then they switch dogs because down there they have so many that they have specific ones that only do like that particular work. And then there's some that are really good at detection, so you learn. You know what I mean? Like they don't just give you a problem dog. So they're all trained. most of them are actually washouts from like, or recycled dogs, things that can't make it in the fleet, which is basically like the actual Marine Corps. So they'll be there, and that's where we handle them to learn basically how to do it. So yeah, and that's about a 4.5-month process.
4.5 months.
Yeah.
To basically become
a canine handler. Yeah.
To canine handler, also dog owner for you, because
Yep.
it's never been a thing.
Yep.
And a trainer, I guess.
Yeah, essentially. Yeah, and the training thing, like, you're always to be a handler. Like, you start as a handler. Like, they don't like teach you how to train, and that's where it's like starts to separate the guys, because some guys might just go out, and you'll see it. Like, some guys will just get a dog, handle it, put it back, you know, and then just go sit around the rest of the day. And then like it's on you to learn different training things and how to like push yourself and stuff like that. So that's where it kind of separates your experience.
And for the most part, it seems that these dogs are already trained when you get them.
Yeah, all the time. Almost, actually, all the time. So in the service, it's not like it's like local law enforcement, right? Like they'll go buy a dog, or you procure them for them, and they buy them for X amount of dollars, and they probably got basic stuff, right? And then they go to their school with that dog, and it's their dog. Usually lives at their house. With us, they're like pieces of equipment for like the military.
Right.
So we have the dog school down in Texas, a program called DTS, like dog training school. So they go and buy dogs, Germany, not at the time, but we wind up getting them from Israel, you know, like you said, Czech, some other places over in Europe. And then we have a breeding program down in Texas. So this program basically trains them all from puppies, or when we get them in Germany, they're like a year, 6 months or something. And then they train them down there and get them to the point where they're, like us, certified to go to the fleet, which is like the Marine Corps. So they get them all the basics. So like when I got sent out, I'm a green handler, I get a green dog. So they know their stuff, but it's all basic. Like they just passed certification. So yeah, and then from that point on, they assign them to different units all over the world. And then you get attached to your dog, and that's your dog for the whole time.
That's cool.
Yeah. So it's a cool experience. Worst thing for me was, so this is how this all came about. This is where it all starts. Is like I wanted to be in a cop car, right? Never had a chance. I'm at canine school again. They send orders out, and the orders say you're going to this unit called 1 Marine Expeditionary Force, which isn't MP company. Like it's not cop company. And had another senior handler next to me going like, where are you going? Like this doesn't exist. So they created this unit in the Marine Corps, this expeditionary force, that only trains and deploys. Because at this point, we're at the height of like Iraq and Afghanistan. Like Iraq is still hot.
Was this? Do you remember?
This was 2008.
Oh, yeah.
So Iraq is hot. Like we have guys over there doing missions, and like the real senior guys are already over there. Like it's still hot over there. So in 2008, they're like, okay, the war's really bad and it's getting worse everywhere. We need to create a unit that only trains and deploys. No, like, because back in the day, it was you hang out in a cop car, do cop work, and then you get sent over to deployment. So that's like rough, right? Because like the dogs are only acclimated to cop stuff, and then they go over there and they're working with, you know, infantry units, you know, in the desert, you know, working with Navy SEALs and stuff. Like you can't,
Different.
It's hard. Yeah. They did it, and they did an amazing job, but there was this big idea like, well, why don't we just design them to do this and increase the amount of dogs that we get? So I was the first one, like in our unit in California. So I show up there and nobody knows what to do with me. They're like, this unit doesn't exist. So I was out there, you know, just doing bite work. You know, I went with the PMO guys, which is like the cops, just doing bite work, and basically a helper or decoy, whatever you want to call it, and just doing like crap work. You know, we call it shit work, obviously, because you're spraying kennels all day, you know, just doing kennel care. So that was my life for like a month until the people started trickling in, and they became this unit that actually became what it was back then. So
it's like the first time they did that unit.
Yeah, I mean, it was like never a thing because there was no big war, right? Like it was just send cops over, come back, send cops over, come back. Now they're like, we need to increase the amount of dogs. Like Iraq's bad, Afghanistan's bad. So
did you know that you were going to go to war?
No, like at that point, I have no idea what this is. Like I'm the only one. Like nobody knows. You know what I mean?
So you went from stumbling into the Marine recruit office, and then within 2 years, you're cleaning up kennels in California with working line dogs and you didn't have dogs.
Yep.
And that kind of like just streamlined your roadmap to be like, okay, I'm here doing this now.
Yeah, that's exactly what it was. Like, it's a good word for it too, because it was like the start of everything. And then when people started graduating, like my other buddies, they started graduating school. They'd come in. Then there was like 6 of us. Then there was 8, and then other senior guys came back from deployment. They were in charge of us, and then they started to like create this big unit that only did that. We had to build a kennels. Like, we expanded. I think the original maybe had like 20, 30 dogs. Not even that much. I think it was like maybe 20. And then it went into almost, it felt like 100 at that point. We had 3 big barns. You know what I mean? It was like big building with like 30 pop-up kennels, and there was almost 100 dogs there at the height of it. You know, and it wasn't like that initially, but they just kept trickling in. People were going on buy trips, coming back with like 9, 10 dogs. Dogs were coming in all the time. It felt like we were just at the airport all the time picking up dogs. But the worst was like we were waiting for them and we never got them. So
are they mostly German Shepherds, or is it?
It's a huge mix, yeah. I would say Shepherds, Mals was like maybe a 50-50 split, and then there was some mix Shepherds and Mals, you know, mixed breeds. Then the best was like you see those 2 white labs in there or something, like they were just strictly like off leash detection dogs, and they were cute. We had one Vizsla, which was sweet. Yeah, he was a tracking dog, so they just strictly did tracks. Yeah, that was pretty much it. Nothing like crazy, you know. It was the best. Like, we went to this event once, and this Navy handler had a Jack Russell. Yeah, the most embarrassing thing I've ever seen. But you have the ships, right? Like, they have to go on the ships, and they have to get them through all the tight spaces. But, yeah, he hated standing next to my buddy with the big giant Shepherd, that's for sure. Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah, so that's pretty much where it happened, and that's what started this whole thing. Like, us just training deploy. And that's where we had to, like, really shift our mindset, you know, as far as training goes, handling. But yeah, it was in 2008 when we finally got the first wave of dogs in. It was 3. So it was like 6 of us all fighting over them, and they assigned them to us. So that's how we got assigned to them.
And then after that, what happened? Okay, you're assigned to this dog, and then you do more training, or is that when you get deployed?
Yeah, no, you make sure you're trained up. So like there's other certifications and stuff. Like for instance, it was funny that when 3 dogs came in, there was this big Mal, like big black face. And he was huge, like stocky, hit like a freight train. But he was really good, like listened to everything. So everybody was like, I want this dog. I want this dog so bad, you know, like
easy.
Perfect. Yeah, I want it. Then there was this other dog, big black Shepherd, like black and tan, black spot in the tongue and like brown feet. And he was really cool looking. He was scary though, because he was just like, you know, like just eyes, like never moved. Like he looked like he was going to eat your face off. And he was just pulling all over the place like crazy. So like, nope. Then there was this tiny little like gray and black Shepherd, like this yappy girl. Like she was like 2 and just like the whole time. And I got assigned Vicky, that little black Shepherd, that little tiny thing. And I'm like, this is embarrassing. Like, I don't want this little tiny thing. Like, I'd handled the other 2 big ones. So my buddy, who's like this high, like 100 pounds soaking wet, he gets this dog called Grief, this big black one. And he's getting pulled all over the yard, you know, getting pulled everywhere. And I'm just standing there with Vicky like, and I'm like, all right, dude, you know what? Let's just switch. And we had no business doing that because we get told what dog we're getting, you know?
Probably
like,
for a reason, right?
Yeah. Like they try to pair you up with your personalities and like your size difference. And I'm like, well, this kid's small, this dog's small. I'm a little bit bigger. Let's just switch. You know, I can probably hold him. So we switched, and then after a while, we got in trouble. And then they're like, you know what? Just see if it works. And then that's how I got assigned Grief. So that's how the whole thing happened. So he wasn't even my original dog. But at that point, summer 2008, I'm assigned Grief. And from there, we're just doing workups all the time, like training and everything. And he sucked.
Are you working on detection or apprehension?
Yeah, so he was a dual-purpose dog. Yeah, so a lot of the dogs we deal with are dual-purpose. So you got bite and detection. Some of them were just detection, but they were a specific unit called Specialized Search Dogs that they created. It was an off-leash program only. So they basically had a lot of they started them with like bird training, you know what I mean? Like the bird launchers and like sending them out, like retrieving things. And there's a lot of off-leash detection. We don't do that a lot with the patrol dogs because they bite, you know what I mean? So you can't have a patrol dog go out and kid runs around the corner, you know? So yeah, we had those 2, and then the trackers. That some of them were like bite track, and some of them were just tracker dogs. But so I had a dual-purpose dog. He was trained to attack and find explosives.
Cool.
Yeah.
So how long did you spend training with Grief before they were like, hey, it's time to go to
But luckily,
Work.
more than I thought. So when we first got him, it was 2008, and I think it was a couple months later, they send you this deployment course in Yuma, Arizona, where they train you to go overseas. So they send you to the desert, get acclimated. It's like a month program, and then they do like a lot of hardcore deployment training. So we did that course. A lot of fun. Scariest moment of my life ever. We were doing night training. So you got the goggles on, you know what I mean? You're just sending him out. He's a black dog too. So you send a black dog out in the middle of the night and it's like just a shadow. Yeah. So I'm like, all right, this is cool. Like he's out there. I'm like, I got him off leash because it's like in the desert, you can practice doing that. Next thing I know, he's walking back with this wire wrapped around his mouth, coming back to me. And he's got the deck cord in his mouth. He found it. He dug it up out and then he's running back to me in my mouth. And I'm like, you got to be kidding me. And the instructor I was with was like, it's not wrong, you know what I mean? But that's a bad problem to have, you know? And I'm thinking to myself, I'm about to deploy. This dog's just going to dig up explosives. Like,
so instead of indicating,
he
just basically was like, I'm going to bring the
he just like grab, because like the
you.
wire, it's easier to just,
Right.
you know, you just pick it up.
And obviously they're not live.
Yeah, well, deck cord is like, so it's nothing. Like deck cord is just like a fuse, like a candle. You know what I mean? So like it's very not explosive. It's just an explosive that they can respond on, you know?
Right.
But then you have some like ammonium nitrate or something. It's like a tube gel. Then if you open it up, like you got problems, you know, or like a stick of C4, you know?
So when you're doing the detection for those things, the objective is for the dog. Like in that scenario, when you're in the desert and the dog goes out, you got your night goggles on. I'm thinking like Jurassic Park, like the big green, like
yeah, exactly. Not as extravagant, but it's exactly what it is. Yeah.
And the dog is supposed to alert that, hey, there's an explosive out here that's in the ground. And are they indicating verbally, or are they just positioning to indicate? Like, are they sitting?
Yep.
Pointing?
Yeah. So like, they're all like we don't do verbal responses. Like, you know, search and rescue dogs. Like they'll bark when they find somebody, and because you have to go find them, and that
Makes sense.
Yeah, but in a high, you know, intense environment where you're like sneaking around at night, it's kind of bad for your dog to just start barking. You know what I mean? Then the whole village knows you're there. So all the dogs are just sit, stay. They started incorporating DFR. I don't know if you heard of it, like deferred final response, which is, you know how like you have like a handler, it might be like, you ever see a scent wall? Like, you know, you have the scent wall. Yeah. So like the guy's going through this, and then next thing you know, the dog like smells it, sits and stares at the dude. Like he's looking at the handler. So they would pay him and he's looking for the toy. Issue with that is though, you start to put different conditions into the dog where as soon as the guy reaches into his pocket, the dog's like, oh, it's here. You know what I mean? So you're getting a false response.
So the cue of the handler reaching for something
Could trigger a false.
indicates the dog like you did it.
No, I mean, like, that's a problem. That's what I'm saying. Like,
Yeah.
you know how guys would get complacent? They know what tube it's in the scent wall. So then they'll reach into their pocket because they know he's about to sit.
So
right?
they're jumping the gun.
Yeah.
A little bit to say.
They're basically conditioning the dog to, like, as soon as I do this, you're going to get paid. So that could happen before the explosive even happens. That's where the dog starts sitting out of nowhere.
Right, because they're like, oh yeah. So they're conditioned that when the handler reaches for something, the dog did the thing. Yep. And it doesn't matter if they actually found the scent in the right tube or not. They're like, oh, they're more excited about the payment than they are finding the thing.
Exactly. So things like that, or even just basic leash manipulations, like all that stuff, like handlers triggering them.
They're like, hey, it's here.
Exactly. Yeah, it's like, oh, I'm here to boot. Oh, your gun. Like, because then every time they feel a tug, they're just gonna sit. So you get these false responses. So we started implementing.
To me, that's, sorry to interrupt, but to me, like, that's wild because your life and several other people's lives depend on that. So I don't know why you would ever want to jump.
You wouldn't. Yeah. And it's not even like it's just like I don't even know how to explain it. It's like an unspoken, like unnatural thing that just happens. Like no one does it intentionally. And like during training, nothing matters, right? Like nobody notices it unless you have a good trainer watching you saying, hey, this is a bad problem. You would never know. You know what I mean? You do training.
Yeah,
you get paid. And then next thing you know, you're in a real life scenario and it's like.
That's why, like, there's parts of me that really want to go and volunteer my time working with police and military because I'm so keen on dog behavior that it'd be
very beneficial to that.
Yeah.
You pick up on those.
Like, hey, your dog actually isn't indicating on the scent. They're indicating on your cue because like the dog starts walking up to the right one and your hand comes out and they're going to. So like if you're out in the field, the cue is this. And so let's say like your dog is searching for something in real life, and they're searching for a bomb or an explosive, and also they see somebody come out of a house and they reach for something, and the dog sits, and they're like, the work's over. Handler keeps walking, and then something bad could happen.
Absolutely.
Because they're indicating on the handler's cue to reach for their pockets.
Yeah.
So you got to desensitize that.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. And that's where then you're back. You just went 5 steps back, because now you have to desensitize all this training, start back from scratch. And it's tough. That's why you have to switch to another person, do all that stuff. But like you just said, and you probably relate to this, obviously, is that when you go, like, when people have issues with their dogs, right? It's mostly because what they do, like, oh,
Right.
my dog. Like, I love the sign on your door. It's like,
Yeah.
stop your dog. And that was funny. Like, this one lady, she's a guru. She's like, you know how to get your dog to stop barking with the doorbell? I was like, no, how? She goes, get rid of your doorbell. Like, that's the problem. So it's like these exterior factors that make the dog react a certain way. So we don't realize that until someone comes in and goes, your dog's doing this because you're doing that, not because the dog has a problem. So we started to notice this into the training. Like, real weird example, going to detection, right? They used to they'd hide it in a room, right? But they would take duct tape and they'd duct tape the C4 under a table, and they would do that, and the dog would go around and find it under the table. Now, after a while, the dog would start responding on a roll of duct tape,
Right.
because he's still not wrong, but
Right.
that's a problem because of that reason. So
You have to proof it.
exactly.
Yeah.
So like those are those little things where like you have to really notice it. So going back to that whole scent wall thing and handlers false positive and making the dog wrong, is they did this thing called DFR, where they basically started to make the reward come from the source. So whether that's third party paying, so like
Right.
somebody else, and that's probably the most basic way of doing it. So if you're handling your dog over there, I'd be hiding in the corner and I'd lob a Kong over his head, bounce it off the odor, and the dog goes, whoa, this odor just spit reward at me. Like, this is awesome. You had nothing to do with it, So we'd be doing training problems where you're running it, but you don't do anything with the dog. You just watch his behavior, monitor it, and then the other people train it, the helpers or whatever.
Yeah. Yeah, I've seen that too. I've seen some of my buddies do that with like it looks like a Connect 4 wall.
Yeah.
Where it's the scent wall
Yep.
with all the different tubes and holes that you can basically mix up to make sure that the dog is indicating on the scent, and not just like, well, this is where it was last time.
Yeah, exactly.
It might be up here this
They'll
time.
move the tubes around.
They'll move the tubes around, and then there's there's a helper on the other side that will actually pay the dog through the wall.
Yeah, yeah.
Like there's the holes, so
Yep.
they'll put the scent in the hole, and then once the dog indicates on it, the tube will come out. It looks like a bank tube, it'll come out, and then they'll pop a ball through it.
Yep. And
so
the ball comes right out the
right.
hole. Yeah.
So the indication has nothing to. The dog isn't indicating and predicating his training off anything the handler's doing.
Right.
It's the moment that they indicate on the right thing, the dog knows that all of a sudden the
Comes right out.
reward. Yeah.
And that's what's fun. It's like going back to the whole trainer problem is like when they train them, like if you're training a dog to find something, you'll do it and the dog's fine because that's the scent wall you're working on. So the dog's, okay, I'm proofed. But then he gets to put with a handler and then he starts implementing all of his bad, what I mean? His bad behaviors, like tugging on the leash. And then the dog's getting confused, like, okay, what I mean? Like that's where they start cheating. So yeah, it became a problem. So anyway, I don't even know how I got away from not having him pick up stuff. I think it was more, just constant repetitions. And then if he ever tried to go near anything, we'd have to do a little correction. So it was like a fine line to not have you smell this, you know what I mean? Because you don't want to correct him for finding it, but at the same time, like, don't bite explosives. You know what I mean? Like, it's a problem. So maybe on an easy going overseas a little bit. Like, we were never like the best team. Like, he was a green dog, stubborn shepherd, you know what I mean? Like, I tell him to sit, he'd be like, no. And I'd be like, and then, our training methods were all choke chain, like yanking, yank. You know what I mean? It's all the way old school stuff.
Yanking crank, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So that was tough for me because it's one, exhausting, and two, he's got such a stuck personality and neck that he's just like, nah. Like even on bite work, he was one of the best bite dogs we had, but he never outed ever because he was such a high drive and you could yank the crap out of him and he never would come off a bite. So that was tough for me too because it's like, that's a problem. You don't want someone like getting their arm ripped off. But I wound up getting him there, and it was like and it was like funny. we don't forget his name, but I feel bad. But he was explaining the same thing. The law enforcement guy. Yeah.
Yeah,
Look
Frank.
his name up. Frank. Yeah. Said the same thing. He was like, he transferred instead of just trying to yank and during, canine like bite work the whole time because there's such high energy and such high drive. I had to move it to obedience. So I would do outs, like loose outs all the time, like hold the tug toy out. And he was such in a calmer state that once I was able to get him to spit it out, give him the other one, spit it out, give him the other one. And I would do this thing called like power hour, they called it, where an hour goes by and you just do like 15, 5 off, 15, 5 off. And you just do this all day long. And I would say after a week, he was spitting it out.
Nice.
Because he just knew the command. We were so caught up on keeping the drive, but yanking him, but that's not helping him. Like he's just getting hurt.
It's cool that you figured that out.
Yeah, and it was just like me off to the side, like just by myself. Like I just actually went, threw him in a dog trailer, close his brain off, open it up. He comes out, give him the bite, you good boy, and then like let him go back in, come out, boom, good boy, and he spits it out. So like every single time he did it, he knew the game was spit it out. That's the fun part. Not like I gotta kill this guy. Like it was more of like a stubborn thing. So yeah, and he got there, which was fun because like nobody wants a dog that doesn't listen, and you know how hard it is to hard knuckle out a dog. Like it's like
Can't do it.
It's not cool. Yeah, it's not.
It's
cool.
dangerous.
Yeah.
Super
Oh, he
dangerous.
turned on me a bunch of times. Yeah, because if you're hard outing him, which is better than yanking and cranking.
Yeah.
You just roll the knuckles, and then he come off, and his teeth are everywhere, and he starts biting on my hands and stuff. I'm like,
Yeah. Did you guys have any bite sticks at that time?
Sticks like you mean like the
Yeah.
whippers?
No, like they have the bite sticks where basically when
Oh, you put it in the mouth? Yeah.
It's like a key. They call it like a. Some people call it keys. So canine handlers will usually have them on their ring, their key ring, and so when the dog latches on like that, and that's the thing is like training. That's why I'm super fascinated and very interested in working with law enforcement and military because my brain is so like that's how I started my career, is I'm a problem solver.
Yep.
That's why I'm not. Yeah, so I just focus on problem solving and finding creative ways to do it. And so when a dog gets into a situation where, like an apprehension dog, for an example, like the intensity of, and I have canine handler friends, and there's like the intensity of your dog searching for a murderer or a terrorist or somebody who robbed a bank, or, usually they're not putting dogs on people who are just, stealing a Snickers bar.
Yeah,
Right?
you're saying you got to prioritize what you're doing. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And so it's so much intensity, right? So now your dog that you care about a lot, which I'm sure you can relate to, is in a dangerous situation and they're biting a guy. There's blood coming out. This is the first time they've seen blood. They've tasted blood. Now their drive is even more intense. So when you say out, it's like, yeah, I'll out for the ball in the field for another ball. But like you're basically telling me to out off of the living thing that I'm trying to kill here.
Which won't stop moving, by the way. Like when you're doing it, when a decoy is doing it, he'll be yanking him, and then right before the out, they stop just to help you out a little bit, and then he spits. You know what I mean? Like the more you move, real life, you're done. Like there's no way around it.
Yeah, so it's a different thing, but the bite key essentially is, you see them in doggy daycares too, where dogs just like won't let go of something.
Yeah, they latch on.
Yeah, so they put it in the back of their jaw, and it's like a little knife. It's not sharp. It just is like a little key, and they put it in the back, and then they just twist like this, and it unlocks the jaw.
Okay.
And then you can pull them off.
Kind of pops it open a little bit.
Yeah, it's a really non-conflicting way to get a dog to let go of
makes
something.
sense. I know you can explain it. I've never seen it though. That's crazy. Like that's.
Yeah, and they use it a lot too when dogs get really intense. Like I even know when I did some PSA with my Dutchie, even when they out, their mind outs,
Yeah.
but their body doesn't.
Yeah.
So you say out, and she's looking at me like, I already did, but my mouth is so clenched on this thing, the muscles take a couple seconds.
Yeah.
Like when you're playing tug with a ball, the dog is anticipating the out to get the other ball, or whatever your value transfer is. But when the dog is actually fighting a human being, and all of that is happening, or even just like a real decoy,
Yeah.
it like their mind is like, I've outed, and you can see them go, and their
teeth open up.
Yeah, and they just start to slowly open up because
Yeah.
they're so intense and clenched, and that's where the key comes in. Is it physically just pops open that jaw?
Ah, okay. That's cool.
yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's definitely safer too. Like you're not reaching your hand in there. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's like I said, it's not confrontational because you're not correcting the dog.
That's true. Yeah.
You're on the collar. you're in, you're pop, boom, and you pull the dog off. And then typically in apprehension, where I've seen it, even on watching cops, pull the dog off, and then the dog's going right back.
Yeah, I was always interested how they did that, because I'm like, if a dog ever bits somebody, you're not letting go. Like,
yeah, I'll show you after on my phone. It's a bite key, so it just like is a little. It's like a putty knife. You just stick it in, twist it, and it just unlocks.
Yeah, that's crazy. That's pretty cool.
Nice to have.
And I didn't think I was gonna learn anything today.
Yeah,
right. That's the other thing we're always learning.
Yeah, it's something that a lot of people utilize, but
that's cool.
Anyway,
I mean, that's the other thing too. Like, we only had, it's very rare, like, to get a real bite. That would be sucky. You know, we're not apprehending people all the time in an inner city somewhere. You know what I mean? Like overseas, and we did have a couple dogs, like maybe 1, 2, or 3. They actually got real bites, like overseas. I mean, those are horror stories. Like, it's that bad. Like, you know, the legs are falling off. There's blood everywhere, and then we know once a dog gets a blood bite, it changes everything.
Yep.
Like, it's not the play game anymore. Like, we had a couple, and it's like, some of them are not really aggressive, like they wouldn't attack people, but their just drive is different. Like, their eyes are popping out of their head, and
once they get the real thing, and they're actually looking at people now differently.
Yeah.
Because what it is, you know, for those of you who are listening or watching, is when a lot of people assume that when we're training dogs for apprehension, which is chasing the bad guy and taking them down and holding them basically until law enforcement handler gets there, and stopping the perp, is the dog is doing it because they're aggressive and mean. And the reality is we're developing dogs to basically play.
Yeah.
And so essentially what we're doing is we're teaching the dog to play with a materialistic thing. So in the beginning, when they're puppies, it's a bite rag, you know, or just a towel, right? And we're like, hey, love this. They love it. They bite it. They rip it. They snarl. They growl. They're excited. It's a play game. Then you switch to like a soft pillow. Then you switch to a harder pillow. And then you start messing with sleeves and leg sleeves. And the dog's like, but then you start putting it on the person, right? You put it on the arm. You put it on the leg. And what eventually happens is, with a good decoy and a good team, the dog is to say that your arm is the thing, right? And people don't realize that is when you're putting a dog on somebody, they just think that the dog's going to attack the person because they're mean and aggressive. And sometimes that definitely definitely is the case.
Yeah.
But for the most part, for most trained dogs, the dog has no idea that they're even hurting that person.
Right.
They understand that it's an intense thing.
They just think it's the sleeve or something.
Right.
You know?
Yeah. But that's what good decoys do, right? They yell and they scream and they'll hit the dog. They'll kick the dog. They'll boom, blank rounds, bang, bang, bang. You know, they're doing everything they can. They're pinching the grab. They're grabbing the dogs. They're twisting, because, you know, people don't care. They're going to stab your dog.
Yeah, exactly.
They're going to shoot your dog. So they're good decoys and good training scenarios, especially dogs who are on the street. Like, they need to know what it feels like to feel that pressure.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
But a lot of times what they're doing is we develop the dog to say, hey, the little bite sleeve is now on a person's arm. They're biting the arm, they're biting the arm, they're biting the arm. And then once they get really comfortable with fighting with a person, the dog is having fun. They're like, we're playing together. And the handler is, yeah, good boy, good girl, good job, right? And then what ended up happening is we start hiding these sleeves under clothing.
Yep.
So then the dog goes, now I'm not biting, I'm biting a sleeve, but it's hidden. Yep. So it's arm, it's leg, it's arm, it's legs. And the decoy's job is to present a situation to the dog to make a decision if they're going to go for a leg or they're going to go for an arm. And that's the development of the dog training, is the dog's coming after the toy and they're looking, and maybe the decoy gives them the arm and boom, they hit the arm. And they're screaming and they're hitting, and the decoy is freaking out because that's what they're supposed to do, because that's what's going to happen.
Yeah.
You don't want a dog to hear the first screech.
The guy's just not going to stand there and be like, this is great.
Right. And then the handler, which is their best buddy, is, yeah, go boy. Yeah. Pocket, get him, right? And so what happens is dogs are just playing with these people. They don't realize that it's what it is, right? Some of them definitely do. Like, they have this very mean, I'm going to try to hurt you, but a really trained, you don't want that.
No,
you want a level-headed trained dog that's like, I'm gonna go get that guy, I'm gonna wait for my handler, they're gonna out me, and I'm gonna go back in the car and get paid or whatever. So I just want to mention that, because people in their heads are probably thinking, they don't know that that's the process. They just think that, like, even with my Dutchie, when I trained her on bite work, my whole family was like, I'm not going to your house.
Yeah, he's aggressive now.
My guys,
he's a mean one.
She's just playing. Like, you don't realize that when a dog is doing this and we're screaming, they're like, I'm doing it, right? And it's this relationship. once you hide the sleeve and then you start turning it into hidden sleeve games, and then you start turning it into neutrality games where the decoy has to sit there like this, and then the handler has to come and place the dog on their bicep. So the dog is apprehending or latching on to a neutral person.
Right.
So if you're going into a building, let me see your hands, let me see your hands, let me see your hands, and they're just sitting there like this, you don't want the dog to not apprehend the guy because they're not running away.
Exactly.
You want to make sure that the dog is going to be placed on this person because they're not listening.
Right.
They're not showing us to their hands. They're not
like listening to the commands, which is part of the game.
The handlers, yes.
Yeah, like those training problems, like not just a person running away. And we do that too. Like we have a neutral person running around, and then the decoy just standing there, the guy we want, and like the dog chases after the person running. You know what I mean? Like you said, you got kids and stuff, and you know, it's all part of the game. And you want them to listen enough to where they get that part. Like you said, people are like, I'm not coming over your house. Your Dutchie's going to bite my arm off. Like, yeah, maybe if you put a suit on and start running around my living room, maybe. But also at the same time, he should know when to do that. You know what I mean? Like it's all part of it. It's not like he's just all of a sudden aggressive, you know?
Yep.
So like, I mean, with us, like I was always nervous of that because you never know. Like, especially overseas, like it was a totally different monster. That's why... Actually, we didn't start really doing it. We did a little bit, but I did a lot when I came back, when I became a trainer, but started throwing not just, like, we used to have the hoodies, you know, like the extra large hoodies. You go to a thrift store, buy all the crappy clothes and cover everything. But then we have to start wearing, like, sheets. You know what I mean? You got to wear, like, the Haji gear, like, dress them up, put the stuff on their head, because that freaks dogs out. Like, you can have the most trained dog in the world, but if you're walking through an area and someone's covered head to toe in a sheet, like, that just scares the heck out of them. Whether they just don't want to do it.
Yeah.
Or it makes it worse, and they're just like, I'm going to bite everything about this person because it's freaky looking. It looks like a giant chew toy, you know? So, like, we had to really incorporate that. Because, like
you
you
had
said,
to dress like...
Yeah, like that.
If you're getting deployed to Afghanistan, you had to dress like how the locals would dress.
Yeah, exactly, because we only use hoodies on sleeves. You know what I mean?
They're not wearing hoodies.
No, no one's wearing a hoodie.
Or
bites.
Nikes. And
yeah. Well, some of them wear.
Are they?
Well, terrorists have to run fast. You know what I mean?
That's true.
Yeah, they're not wearing sandals. That's why you knew, like, this dude's a bad guy. He's got
Really?
Jordans on. Yeah. He's got those, like, you just know. They got stuff. They big, nice phone. That's how you knew. If they had money, they were bad people.
Wow.
Yeah. Otherwise, they lived in, like, most of the areas. Otherwise, they lived in, like, mud huts, and they had sandals and goats and stuff.
Makes sense.
Yeah, it really kind of does.
It's kind of like the mob back in the day in New York City.
Yeah, dude.
When you're in the hood and there's somebody walking around with a Rolex and
Nice
a
suit.
Cadillac.
Nice suit. Yeah.
Nice suit. And you're like, you're doing something wrong.
Yeah.
Like you're probably a bad person.
Yeah, literally. It's exactly what it was. They're the mafia of the desert, dude. It was nuts.
Wow.
Yeah, so you pick up on those things, but yeah, so...
That's that street smart stuff that you can't teach people, right?
No, you can't, and that's why it's so important when guys would come back, you share that knowledge. You know what I mean? You got to go and experience things and then share, like, what you learned. Like, we would have these things called, like, TPEs, like, you know, like, procedures and stuff, and, like, you basically write up notes, like, we saw this. This is how they hid their bombs. Like, they're not hiding it in buckets anymore. They're hiding it in pressure cookers. You know what I mean? Or, like, you know, this guy's wearing this stuff, or like watch out for a red flag in the woods because that's an indicator. They're not using trash bags anymore. You know, like little things that the more people saw it, we record it, then 6 months later they change it because we got smart.
You got wind, yeah.
They know, man. So they would definitely change the way they do their thing, and we just have to keep trying to find it. So
that's crazy to even have a conversation with another human being to talk about how terrorists are trying to actively kill other people.
Right, I know.
They're not using trash bags anymore. They're using flags.
Yeah. Well, did you see the crap on the news about the beeper thing? No?
I try not to watch the news.
I don't either. I was in Wawa, which is a great place, by the way.
Yeah.
So, and I hope I don't get in trouble. Are we allowed to mention anything?
Yeah.
Like, okay, so you can
Mention
say
anything.
a brand. You said Nike. I mean, I didn't.
You say
I
anything
didn't
you
like
want.
that. Yeah.
Say anything you want.
So anyway, I was in Wawa and I'm waiting for my sandwich, and I look down and like the headline said "beep beep boom," and this dude's like laying on the side of the road with his like stomach blown off.
That's why I don't listen to the news.
Yeah, because you want to sleep good at night, and I get it. So I'm not trying to scar you, but this is what I'm saying. Like, it's apparently Israel intercepted beepers, and they implanted like little battery bombs, and now they're just blowing people up. And I think it was somewhere like some Hezbollah people. It's the scariest thing I've ever seen. Yeah, so like I only feel like a couple people got dead, but a lot of people got hurt. But like this is the weird stuff they did, and I'm like, this is all over the world, and this is what we dealt with every day, like little stuff like that.
That's insane. So, so you're training with grief, and then you went through training, and then when do you get the notification that you're getting deployed?
Yeah, that's the fun one because like we did our thing and it was really cool because like in between all the waiting around and training, we got to do a Secret Service mission, which was sweet because like it's totally different. You know, everybody wanted to do that because you get to fly somewhere, get the rental car, get to stay in the hotel, wear nice clothes, regular clothes. First time not in camis anymore. I'm taking my dog outside of base. And it was so glamorous. Cool. Yeah. So it was like it was the G8 summit. We did the G20. I think the other guys did the G8 in New York, and it was the same time. So they went to Pittsburgh. It was 4 of us, and they shut the entire city down. So we're like, this is a cool experience. Like we're gonna meet the president. We're somebody cool. You know what I mean? So we get there, and immediately the experience sucks. Like it's the worst thing ever. You know what I mean? Like it's not cool because you get to the airport and you got to move your suitcase around with a giant very kennel, with a whole thing of food. And a whole gear bag full of him. So how do you do that? We had to find like a big push cart. I'm pushing him on the very kennel through the airport. Then we were walking next to us. We're dragging the kennel with our suitcase. Like it's the worst experience. Then you get your rental car, and we're like, all right, we get like some crappy rental car. You throw him in there. He's in the back barking the whole time. I've never driven a POV with him. Car. So we go all the way to the hotel, and I'm in a hotel. I'm like, this is cool. I open the door, throw him in there, and he's like, never seen the inside of a room. Like, you know what I mean? Like, they're in a kennels, they're out playing. So I'm like, come on, buddy, let's lay on the bed. And he's just pacing around the room the whole time. Like, he would not stop settling down. I'm like, this is a horrible time. This is really bad.
Well, it's interesting to hear, especially for people who are listening who don't understand working dogs.
Yeah, they've never seen real life.
They've never felt carpet.
Never, yeah.
Right?
He's in a kennel. They poop and pee. Like, it's a boarding facility. You know what I mean? Like, they're in a boarding facility.
But I think that's important to mention because part of my job is I dip a lot into a lot of things in dogs. So I talk to people like you. I've seen military canine handlers, police canine handlers, and then I also work with, this really wealthy person with this dog who isn't even allowed on concrete because they don't want their pads to get. It's like
the Yorkie or the French Bulldog.
Just in general, like how people just treat their dogs, and I'm like, Your dog would like survive just like on the streets. Like you don't have to do all this.
Yeah.
So you get to the hotel, your dog's like, what the hell's going on? I've never seen any of this.
Yeah. Just pacing,
scary.
Man. And then, so I had to lock him in the crate. Like I thought we would just be cuddling on the bed, like back home, with our dog, which his name is Cooper. You know what I mean? Like we had a golden, like it was new to me. I'm like, oh, I can finally do that. Like I can't wait to break him into it. But it was horrible. And then the next day we go to the thing, we get this big meeting, we get our badges and all this stuff, our everything, decals for the car. And I'm like, oh, we're going to get cool assignments. Me and my buddy got stuck outside the city searching exhaust pipes, like buses coming in every day. Like it was just the checkpoint coming into the city.
So what order were you looking for?
Anything. Yeah, it was anything. So because they're trained on like, I probably can't remember, but it's like basic stuff like TNT, C4, like
all the explosives,
ammonium nitrate, like anything explosive that they're trained on. Because buses coming in, dude, that's the hot spot. If you're gonna blow up a building, it's coming on a bus. Someone's not carrying it. You know what I mean? So,
oh wow,
you know what I mean? We had guys searching areas, so like they'd go into like the hotels or the conference rooms and search the buildings empty before, just in case someone put something. But then we had other assignments like us on the side of the city, like searching, buses and big trucks and vans and people carting in like the caterers and stuff. So like it was not glamorous, dude. It sucked. It smelled like exhaust. And now this was an interesting thing that I learned in the real world is that we were working with EOD because if I find it, this dude's got to crawl under the car and figure it out, right? So
you're working for what's EOD?
Explosive Ordnance Disposal.
So they are the people that would basically, it's like the movies where they go in and dismantle.
You ever see Hurt Locker?
No.
With Jeremy Renner? No?
No.
Dude, me and my wife just watched it the other day.
I'll watch it.
It's really good. Really, you ever seen it?
Hurt Locker?
The Hurt Locker, yeah.
Is it a movie or a series?
No, it's a movie. Old movie, like 2008, about an EOD team in Iraq.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah, dude. It's Jeremy Renner. You know Jeremy Renner?
I do.
Yeah.
I've met him kind of.
No, really?
Yeah.
Oh, he's awesome, dude.
I was in the hills working with one of the chain smoker guys, and I was working with his dog, and he was talking to this guy. And then the guy drove off, and he was in nice, it's the hills. So I'm like,
it's everywhere.
He's like, did you know him? I'm like, no. He's like, that's Jeremy Renner. He plays in like a ton of movies.
Stuff.
And then my wife just started watching. What's that series that he has?
Renovations?
No.
Oh, where he renovates buses?
No, I can't remember what it's called. Shoot. The Kingdom? No. Anyway,
Yeah.
I know
that
who he
dude.
is.
Yeah, he's a cool dude. I wish I met him.
So the people go under the buses if you find something.
Yeah,
to then...
they'll try to take it apart, or you know what I mean.
Wow.
EOD's job is to take the bomb apart, or like figure out a way to do it. They sometimes do controlled det where they put another explosive on it and blow it up. I don't think that would work in the middle of a city, but that does overseas. But yeah, so anyway, these guys, I would search a bus, and then the guy would be like, all right, I don't like the way this looks. I need you to check it out. Or like we'd work as a team and be like, this bag looks shady, because they'd open the vehicle, you know what I mean? Like, or the way the truck looked, it looked weird. So EOD would always come in and he'd be like, you know, like touching stuff, and then he'd be like, open the door. He would open this, he'd shut it, he'd touch some things, and then be like, all right. Then sometimes they'd be like, oh, can you just double check so I feel good? And I'm like, all right, whatever. So like we'd start searching things, and next thing you know, my dog sits on the truck, like responds.
Like,
So
like what kind of truck?
It was like a van, maybe a big van, like a passenger van, but you open the back doors and there's all these bags and stuff in it. So it's like typical, like, there's a bomb in here. So I thought it looked weird a little bit, but you know, I was like, it could be anything.
But your dog indicated.
Yeah. So then EOD's playing with it, and then I come back and my dog winds up sitting now on the back of this truck.
Let me ask you this about EOD. Are they protected? Or are they just like, yeah,
Well, you have to see it, but like in overseas and like when they do if they have to walk up to an actual threat, they'll wear the green suit, like that big green suit. It's an EOD suit, and it's like in case it does go off, they're slightly protected just to help with the blast and the shrapnel and stuff. So they have this big green suit, and they sometimes use robots, like they have like bots that go up.
That,
yeah. But they usually just use their hands, like the hardcore dudes. Like they'll just go in and be like, all right, boom, it's done. Yeah, right? Like, you'll love that movie, dude. Now you gotta
check it out for sure.
All right, last thing about that, Jeremy Renner.
So, Mayor of Kingstown is that.
That's what it is.
Yeah.
It always came on after Yellowstone.
Yeah, she got into that. It's
yeah.
pretty good.
No, yeah, I heard it was good. Yeah. That was before his accident, too.
Yeah.
Yes. Right through that, yeah. So, yeah, we were in this van, and the back of it's got all these bags, and I'm like, dude, all right. Then Grief sits and stares at the bags. And I'm like, whew, this is either going to be a great day or a bad day.
Does that give you an adrenaline rush?
Yeah, dude. Like, that's a bomb. Like, you know what I mean? Because you're already guessing.
Because your dog's like, yo, this is...
Yeah.
There's something... Somebody's trying to kill somebody in here.
That's what we're like, okay, we think it is. And now he's coming around for the second time going, you know what? I think it is. Now I'm thinking, wait a minute, I tricked him. Because it's the second time I'm doing it. Maybe I falsed him. Maybe it's like, you know, I did something, right? So I reset.
Do you have another dog to check?
We did, but he was doing something else. So like because we were split, like they had lanes, right? So they do everything. So this is the best part.
I want to do that, man. That sounds so cool.
Yeah, well, it does. But after like 18 hours of searching exhaust pipes, it sucks.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
it's like I want to, but
I know.
I don't.
That's so
that's why I'm happy I did it for like 3 days. You know, because that's enough. But anyway, my buddy comes over. His dog was better than mine. He comes up to the van. His dog sits.
Damn.
I'm not making this up. Yeah. So now we're thinking we're about to save the world.
What kind of dog does he have?
It was a Mal. Like it was I think it was an Israeli dog too. He had an Israeli dog because we would get him over there. Anyway, his dog sits on this van. Now we're all freaking out. Now we're about to call in somebody. Like shut this place
down. Is EOD
down.
there?
Like I said, the EOD just played with everything. He just was moving the bags around. Like
what did he say?
He's like, I think we got to shut this van down. We got to pull it off to the side, really tear it apart. And then we learned something that was the most simplest thing that made us all breathe. And we proofed it on the side, was that he was wearing his mechanics gloves that he plays with explosives with all day long.
EOD was? Yeah, okay.
He was playing with the bags, and his gloves were coated in explosive odor. So our dogs responded on all the odor that he left when he was playing with the bag. That's all it was. Because then we noticed, he's like, wait a minute. I use these are my work gloves. And then so he took them off, put them off to the side. We sent our dogs really quick. They went and sat on his gloves. And that is what it was.
Wow.
They sent the van on its way. It was nothing.
You would have thought, like, if people's lives are at stake, you would think about that. I don't know.
You don't. Like, here's the best part about real life is you don't know until it's real life. You know what I mean? Like,
no, I get
that's why that particular moment will transfer into training, like the duct tape or like the scent wall stuff, anything. Like, you'll translate that from now on. Don't be wearing explosive gloves when you're checking a car.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Like, I love that. Like, I feel like when I'm doing behavior modification stuff with pet owners, I'm like this mad scientist in my head about like how creatively I can get to yield results and make a change. But it would be really cool to put that into like security.
Yeah.
Like, because I would be able to be really, it just would be cool to like put my my skills to another asset of.
Yeah, because it's like in this industry, especially, a lot of people forget because trainers, anything, trainers, groomers, anything, like they all have their own way, and their way is the highway. You know what I mean?
Sure.
The best ones ever will go, I can do a good job, but I know there's a better way to do it. You know what I mean? All the time. We're always learning. There's no great person. Like we can all live to be 100 and die and still never be the best dog person because they're always evolving. They're always changing. Gloves just changed the entire detection thing. Like, you know what I mean? Like everybody was good until.
Yeah, no, that makes sense.
Yeah. So that was like so that was just like a cool side story. But yeah, Secret Service was cool. Did that. Got to like, the coolest part about that was they shut the city down. So like we had to do night sweeps. So at night we'd go through walking through Pittsburgh.
That's cool.
Nobody's there, dude. Like it was empty. Like it was like, to me, it felt like that Dark Knight scene with like Heath Ledger just in the middle of the street, no one around. Like it was just like lights and just nothing. And then we were just searching, me and my boy, and just every trash bag I thought was a bomb.
Right.
But, you know, that's just typical. But yeah, thank God nobody got hurt. It was a regular day. But yeah, that trip made me realize I never want to do Secret Service ever.
Right.
Because it's just traveling 300 days on the road. And yeah, it's rough. But it was a cool experience. So anyway, to answer your question an hour ago, after Secret Service, we get back and they're like, all right, you're going to Iraq. You guys are leaving September 4th or September whatever. Start packing up your stuff. Move everybody out of your apartments, send everybody home. Me and my wife bought plane tickets. I was about to kiss her a week later. Like, see, I'm going to Iraq. There was like 30 of us. That Tuesday, I think we were supposed to leave like that Friday. That Tuesday we go to work. They had us all out there in the morning and they go, guess what? You're not going to Iraq anymore. We're canceling the entire trip. We're sending 4 to Iraq and the rest of you are going to Afghanistan.
And what year was this again?
2009. This was 2009. So this is right after Iraq starting to like come down. And it was like this big wave going into Afghanistan. And we're like, okay. Like,
so when did they, I'm really bad with time, like timelines. Yeah. When did they kill Osama?
Oh man, I didn't know.
Do you know what year it was?
You didn't agree to quiz me.
I'm not quizzing. I'm just saying.
Just spitballing.
Was this, no. Okay, let me ask you this: was this
no?
Before,
I think it was.
Or so did had the SEALs killed Osama before you went over? Like the leader of the Taliban?
Before we went over, yeah.
He was dead.
He definitely was. Because I remember, I want to say it was like 2008 or so. Because I think Obama had something to do with that.
Okay.
I don't think it was Trump. Yeah, it was like still in Obama's term.
Obama's term.
And he was 8 to 12. So it happened probably like 2008 or 9.
Okay, I'm just trying to, in my head, get this timeline down to like when things were hot and stuff.
Yeah, that's a good question, though.
Abby, can you pull that up?
Yeah, can we
pull that up? When they killed Osama bin Laden, because that's like would give me a good timeline.
Yeah, just so we can pick, because I don't know. Now I feel like stupid.
11? Yeah, 2011. So this was before.
That was after I got back then. Dang. Wow.
I'm just trying to, in my head, think about the landscape when you went over to Afghanistan at that time.
Right, because when we were talking about it, it almost seemed like he like shut Iraq down, like when he got killed. But yeah, so I guess we were supposed to go, and then things started to slow down, and he was still hiding, I guess, 2011. Dang. Well, it's still like 13 years ago. It's nuts.
Mm-hmm. That was such a big part of our culture, like in the world, not just us.
Yeah, that's true too.
But like that was like the big vengeance after 9/11 was to get that guy.
No.
And that's why I was wondering like what timeline it was, because I know it must have been this, like the whole military probably was like, finally.
Yeah.
Not that there's not other bad guys out there, but that was the headhunt.
Yeah. No, I know. Have you seen that movie about that one?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, you know, there's a dog. It was a dog on there.
Yeah, that's why I always tell people. Yeah. Like I tell people all the time, like it wasn't a guy that killed Osama. It was really a Malinois that got up there and found him.
Yeah.
And when we talk about like dogs having jobs and dogs having purpose and dogs being such a crucial part of our culture and in our lives, I talk about these big key moments in history. And one of the things I talk about I was like, like the killing of Osama bin Laden, I think the biggest terrorist in the world, who was held responsible for the biggest terrorist attack on the United States, if not ever, was found and apprehended by a Malinois.
That's nuts, man. The fact that even that dog was on that bird and they flew in there that night, like that's crazy.
Yeah, he's probably like, yep, okay, cool.
Yeah, where are we going?
Another day.
Our heart rate's through the roof.
Right.
And he's just like,
that's the interesting thing, man. Right? Is like, it's tough to say if like, I'm sure dogs get excited because they're going into work.
Yeah.
They don't know, like, because I'm sure they do that drill all the time. They bring the hawks down tuk, tuk, tuk,
Yep.
tuk, 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 at night, right? And they send the dogs into these houses. I'm sure that they've done that before.
Yeah.
And then, but this
To
one,
him, it's just a bite sleep.
Exactly.
But to us, it's like, we're about to get the dude.
That's Osama,
We're about to get
dude.
the guy, yeah.
like, that's got to be insane. And I've listened to all of the, and watched the podcast of the guy who did it. He's like this redhead. I think he's like got red hair.
I forget his name, too.
He's a SEAL, and he talks about that thing in that night, and he talks about how he didn't, he thought he was a goner going up the stairs because he couldn't see the second stairs, and he didn't have coverage, and it was. But yeah, Zero Dark 30 is one of my favorite movies of all time.
Cool. That's real badass.
Like when that girl, I forget her name, but she I think was in Homeland Security or one of the
Jessica Chastain.
I can't remember her name.
I think it's her name.
But she was responsible of really finding him.
Oh, I was saying the actress's name.
Yeah,
You mean
okay,
the real
yeah,
girl's
yeah,
name?
yeah,
I
the
don't
real
know
the real girl's name.
No idea.
Probably matters more about her than the actor.
All we care about is actors.
But it's really, really cool because she was like really responsible for. I think that they found him off of like a dialysis. Like they were talking about like his. It was crazy, man. Like how they found him, and she like in the movie. I don't know if this really happened, but in the movie, it's just like the body bag in this huge air carrier, and she comes over and just unzips it, and she like starts like getting emotional. She's like, "That's him," and she's
imagine though, like your life's work, just
dude.
that's a peak. Like you can't.
It's like, you're talking about like finding explosives on like a training field. Like you just found the biggest terrorist in the world who was responsible for killing thousands of people.
Yeah, that's crazy.
It's crazy. But anyway, a dog was a huge player in that, that mission.
People don't realize it, but it's
crazy.
That's what's kind of cool about this whole thing. It's like we were such a part of history, like, and just to have, like, and that's the other thing. Like, I'll circle back to that, but like this whole deployment thing that we're coming up on, and this unit that we've created that I was a part of, like, it's sad that it doesn't exist anymore. They actually shut it down. Like we just visited, we had our reunion this May, and we all went up to the kennels, and we were there, and to see it was eerie, dude. Like all the kennels are gone, like the buildings are there, but it's all empty and it's quiet, which
Doesn't
never
happen.
happened. Yeah, dude, it was eerie, and there's just stuff everywhere, and the weeds are growing up, and it just felt like, the end of the world, and that they just shut it down because they don't need 80 dogs ready to deploy anymore. Things are shifting, and the priorities have changed, but.
Might be a good thing,
Yeah, I mean, it's sad. I mean, it's kind of cool that we were a part of it, but it's like one of those things. It's like that show you don't want it to end. You know what I mean? But like the best shows do end.
Yeah.
It's
like those. It's like you think back on those summer nostalgic days when you're, hanging out with your family outside, and it's just beautiful out, and you're like, man, this is the best day ever, and you don't want it to end.
Yep. And then it does, but then you just fall in that memory. So like we do have to give memories because otherwise, like, who knows what it would turn into. Mm-hmm. So we kind of like live off of that, and it was a huge part of history. Had to be over there, and we did. There winds up being 3 of these units all over the country. There was East Coast, West Coast, and then they had that third one, and then we just kept cycling 6 months, 6 months, 6 months, 6 months, and we just kept replacing each other for I guess from like 2009 until 2013 or something. That was the longest. 14 might have been. So it was several years, and then they stopped it.
Well, how old are you?
I'm just had a birthday, so I think I'm 36. Yeah,
nice. So we're the same age.
Oh, nice.
So the reason why I'm asking is because I'm trying to put myself in your shoes. You're standing on this at base, and your sergeants come out and they say, hey, you were going to go to this country.
Yeah, prepare to go to Iraq.
Now you're going here. Like, what does that feel like as a human being? Like, is there excitement? Is there anxiousness? Is there fear? Because for me, it would like, I just want to give you my point of view, and I want you to tell me like if this is how you actually feel.
Yep.
Because to me, I would be thinking of my family.
Yep.
I'd be like, oh, your girlfriend at the time. Like, oh man, like, and then I'd be thinking about like, oh man, it's bad over there, man. Like, I'm gonna go fight. I'm gonna go to war. Like, I haven't seen any of this, but I've never even been to the middle. Like, what is that? That's how I would feel.
Yep.
How do you feel in that?
You were wrong, man. You said everything that I felt. Like, I think we have a lot of similarities, but like I was my wife at the time, but we got married 2009. So we got married June. I flew her out there just for 2 months because I'm like, we're leaving, but we'll spend some time together. Then, we're like, okay, we stayed in my buddy's apartment. We just shacked up in like his bedroom. His spare bedroom. And then we just were like, all right, let's go. We're going to Iraq. And then, no, you're not. So the first thing I thought of was like, well, what is she supposed to do? Like, she's supposed to fly home this week.
we don't have a place to live. We just put all of our stuff in storage. Like we have, you know what I mean? So now you're figuring out your priorities, like your life stuff. Then it's like, well, I was ready to go to Iraq and they had like a Chili's on base and like internet, you know what I mean? Like it was built up. It was still bad, but it was nice.
They were there for a while. Right?
Yeah, a while. It was built up. Afghanistan's a desert. Like there's nothing over there right now. So it was a totally different landscape, like totally different mindset. So we're like, and we heard nothing but war stories about Afghanistan. You know what I mean? Like, because it's always been like the wild, wild west of the war, where like Iraq was always like gunfights and, you know, they started implementing IEDs. So it was like city stuff. It's a lot of city, like, you know, the MOUT training where they're in like buildings and you're doing a lot of like bite work in buildings and stuff. Over there, it was like, you can have the mountains with the snow, or you can be in the desert plains where you don't see anything for miles. And then they have some areas where there's buildings. So it was like a big mix. And we're like, me personally, I was definitely nervous. I was like, I don't know how to expect to switch all this. So they had two groups. One was leaving in like 4 months, and there was only a couple of them, like a dozen. And then the big push was 33 dogs going in June of 2010. So that following, we would replace our buddies that were over there. So we sent some people out right away. And that was like that feeling you're talking about. Like when we went 2 months later to that airport, and these guys are like shaking. They're like, every one of these guys, also remind you, was 19, 18, 19, or 19, 20, 21, 22. Some of them were a little bit older. Almost all of them have never deployed before. Mm-hmm. So,
including you, right?
Yeah, well, yeah. I mean, like almost all of us never deployed before, and we're all very junior Marines. So when we had to say goodbye to that first group, it was like heart-wrenching. Like, seeing that plane go off and they're leaving and we're back home training. Now they went and experienced everything for the first time. Yeah, man. The only upside to them going when they did is they went in the winter, and they don't do much in the winter because they just hide in case they just hide. You know what I mean? Like it's not as
terrorist.
Active.
You mean?
Yeah, it's not as active. Like the summers is where it gets crazy because they're used to the heat and they just love to like bounce around. So,
and when you're going to Afghanistan, because I'm ignorant to all this. I mean, I know what's going on, but I have to protect my mental health, and I feel like I'm a very empathetic person, and I put myself in the issues that I read or I see or I hear, and it messes me up for like a day.
Yeah,
you know,
like,
like
me too, man. Even me, like
yeah.
I'm experiencing it. And I hate it. Like see stuff on the news, or like you said, like I don't, you know.
And now you know what it's actually like. You know how it smells and tastes, and you really know. So. Man, that's just wild to wrap your head around that. Like when you're going to Afghanistan, do they tell you like, hey, we are like, what is the purpose of what's the objective? Is it just having boots on the ground in this country? Like, what is it?
Yeah, like so for us, our job is to save lives behind us. So like a lot of the other jobs, they have specific things. Like infantry guys, they'll go out and patrol. You know what I mean? They'll go and interview like different parts of like the villages, or like be in a gunfight, they have to fight back. You know what I mean? If people get attacked, because like that's what they do. Some people will go over there and they work a computer because we need.
Are you looking specifically for terrorists? You're fighting terrorism?
Absolutely, yeah. Like because like the issue is it's like, let's say you have like New York City, right? And you have a gang that's starting to like build up and infiltrate. Now all of a sudden they're disrupting normal day of life. And not only that, they're peeling over to other parts of the world. You know what I mean? Like, like you said, going back to 9/11, they just decided to, hey, I'm gonna poke the bear a little bit, and then we had to go find them. And then the problem was and I don't want to get into, I don't even know. I'm being ignorant too. You know what I mean? I never knew the politics. I knew, there's the conspiracies and all the, you have oil and all this stuff. We don't have to talk about that. The point is, they were bad people. They were not only bad for the rest of the world, but they're bad for their own country. You know what I mean? Like they controlled it, like you said, like the mafia. So when we went over there, our job was basically, I guess, just to contain them in Afghanistan. You know what I mean? Like the more we're there, they have to fight us, and we'll stop them from expanding because we don't want 9/11 to happen again.
Right. So if you're like, walk me through, like if you're over there, right? You're walking around with your dog and you see Al Qaeda or a terrorist. I'm assuming they're all Al Qaeda over there. I don't know the different.
Yeah, I think Al Qaeda was Iraq, and then like Taliban is
Taliban. Sorry.
Yeah, I don't even know too. Like I don't want to say anything, but the cool thing is we can just admit that we have no idea, so people can fact check us. Like who said that?
No, I don't think that. I think it's just, I'm a young man that knows that there's definitely bad things going on and there's war going on, and I just choose to not invest too much time into figuring out who's killing who.
Yeah.
But I do know that it's happening, and I do know that it sucks and it's sad, and there's heroes like you that actually fight for our country. But like when you're over there, like let's say you see somebody with Nikes and an iPhone sitting there looking at you, like what do you do?
Yeah, so that the hardest thing that we all had to figure out was like you never know like who is who. like that. Like you don't know who's bad and who's not. You have the indicators, like you said, like they might have money. Like
the guys that came like back, are they telling you like, hey man?
Yeah, they're like those things. Yeah, like they'll be
Okay.
like this area, and then they may even have like high value targets, HVTs. So like some missions that were very special. That's what like a lot of the special operations do. Like they'll get intel that like there's this high level terrorist in this area. So they're the ones that do like the Blackhawks in, like
a movie.
Yeah, they get fast rope down. They're just thrown in. Their dog finds them, bite them. They take them back. They interrogate them. So like that's a lot what they do. A lot like what our guys did. Like a majority of us was a lot of protecting our people. So like there's
So you're more security than you are like looking.
we're basically protect because the IEDs were the biggest threat, right? Like very rarely did you get in a gunfight. There happened all the time. Like it just wasn't commonplace. It wasn't like back in the day where it was blue versus red and they just shot each other. You know what I mean? Like it's not like that because they'd lose immediately. You know, they're smart. So a lot of it was IEDs. They go out at night, plant one in the ground, and then just go sit back and kill 20 people, you know, because that was the best way to do it.
Safest way for them too.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because they didn't have to get into gunfights with U.S. military.
Yeah, and if we saw them putting one down, we'd pop them in the head. So like they had to be sneaky about it, and they would hide them. And so that became such a threat. People would be losing lives and legs and all this stuff. So our job was to stand in front and basically lead. Like we always say, K9 leads the way. That was like our thing. So we were out in front of the whole patrol. Send the dog down the roadway. Send him down a sketchy alleyway. Send him in the building. All right, it's all clear. You know, praying to God, you're right, but you go in, clear it out. Now they can go and do their job, patrolling, talking to people, like just in case stuff happens. So that was what we did. That was our primary job. We just always out in front, you know, open area. Like let's say, I'll give you an scenario, and this is worst case scenario, but let's say you're going. Next thing you know, you're in the back of the patrol because your dog's tired or something.
Can you? Sorry to interrupt, but can you?
Let's do it.
Before that, can you just granularly give me like a day in a life? Like wake up at 6 and drill sergeant comes in. He's like, hey, we're going to go to this area in this city. You guys with the dogs are going to go first. You guys with the snipers and like walk me through like
how we got there and what we do.
Yeah. Like who tells you to do this stuff? Like,
gotcha.
Like, is there an itinerary? Like how does
a schedule? Like, go find IEDs on Tuesday.
Yeah. How does it work?
No, it's like, so the worst part about what we do is we work, like, K9 is such a tight-knit group, you know, the dog world in general, but like, we're a very small percentage of the Marine Corps. Like, we were hidden off in the hills. We worked and trained together all day long. We have such a tight bond, but then when we go overseas, we all show up to Camp Leatherneck, what it was called, in Afghanistan, and we get off the plane, and we have to go to our kennels. And at this point, we're the bigger group, so we have to build it. It's a big open area. There's nothing there. So, like, we have to put tents up. We put the very kennels down. They had these deployment kennels sent in. Like, these
just for your
it looked like that, honestly, except, like, 10 times bigger. Okay. And, like, it had, like, a back door and, like, air conditioning fans and stuff. But we had to put all that together. We were building decks, you know, pop the tents up, and we had to basically build it. And we were all there. And you always try to give yourself 2 weeks because they want your dog to get acclimated to the weather, you to get acclimated to the weather. It's not San Diego where it's 69 degrees and sunny. You know what I mean? Like, it's hot, especially in June. So we have 2 weeks. My poor buddy, he was only there like 4 days. And I think the guy came in the tent. And he's like, you're going out with 444, which is British Special Forces. Like, you're leaving tomorrow. And he's like, okay.
In Afghanistan?
Yeah, in Afghanistan. Because we work with everybody, all countries. Like, they have everybody over there. So he was sent with the Brits. And he got to work with them. But we're like,
yeah, man,
good luck, dude.
I did a seminar in Australia, and the guy's name is Will. Great guy. He was special forces for the Australian government. And actually, I have it in my office at home. I kind of want to put it here, but I'm more at home than I am here. He gave me his flag because he was telling me that he's like, I worked elbow to elbow with the U.S. military and people from all over the world. And so, like, we don't think about that when we're watching, like, the Mark Wahlberg movies. And, you know, we're just thinking, like, USA's over there holding shit down. But we don't realize that there's also other military agencies over there protecting.
I didn't either. Like, that's what NATO is and all that. Like, I had no idea. Like, we get over there and they're like, oh, that's the British, like, side. Like, you got to fly out of the British. I'm like, British?
Do you guys talk and hang out and stuff?
Well, so, like, jumping in a little bit, but like he got to work with the Brits and we're all like jealous. Then he comes back wearing their uniform and stuff, like, because we have to look like them, you know what I mean?
And but he doesn't sound like them.
No, and this kid didn't. Like, he was just, you know, this cute little, you know, kid. But he went out with special forces, and he was out there forever. We barely saw him. He was out for like 2-3 months. But like this, going back to, I'll get to that in a second. But like,
Sure.
So we get there, right? He sets out, and we all get assignments. So like, you're going with infantry unit, 3-1, and you're going to work with, recon battalion, and you're going to work with. I was sent to work with the snipers, and I'm like, I don't know what I'm gonna do with a sniper platoon. You know what I mean? Their job is just to shoot people. Like, why do they need help? But anyway, they send us out everywhere, and we're by ourselves. So it's just me, my dog, all of our gear, and we leave each other. So like the people you knew. So then I get attached to a random unit.
But isn't there like hundreds of other military personnel on the base too?
Yeah, but the big base. So like Camp Leatherneck is like the hub, right? So that's like your big part. It's like your city, your big city, right? And then you have, that'd be like Albany. And then you have other bases, like then you get sent to Clifton Park, you know what I mean? And then like, you're working out of there, and that's like a smaller base. But then you get sent to like a random neighborhood, like out in the woods, and that would be like a smaller base. And that's where a lot of these units work out of. Sometimes you get lucky, you're on a big base and you do missions out of there. But then sometimes like me, I get sent out to work with this other group. Like, I remember.
Sorry, I was just going to say,
yeah.
like, I want to get as granular as I can
Yeah.
so I understand it. So when you say that you get lucky, that means like the bigger bases have more accommodation?
Yeah, absolutely. Like
Okay.
a chow hall, like a building.
Okay.
Like they would look like this with like servers and stuff.
Yeah, that's what I want to envision. Like, what's
Like the big base had like a building. I swear, like it would be like the chow hall was as big as your facility here, and it was like this
Wow.
beautiful thing with like endless amounts of food. And
That's
like,
where you want to be.
And Rip-Its, these little energy drinks. Like yeah, you want to be there. They have an MWR, like a place where you can call home, like get on the internet.
You want there to be there.
Yeah, you
okay.
do and you don't, and here's why: because like the distractions get in the way. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Okay.
Because when we would go back there, it was vacation. Like it was like
Get too soft, right?
yeah, you do, because like you're not doing missions. You're basically, because we would have these things where they pull you back and have like a couple days of retraining, because they'd have the kit, and you know what I mean. You do some training, get to call home, take a nice shower, like a real shower, because they have these like trailers, and then they have the big chow halls. You walk around, there's cars driving around. It's like a little city. That's what the big camps are. Then you go to these other smaller places. They're like similar, like chow hall, but like kind of cardboard boxy, like sitting on wooden benches, and not as good, but you have everything you need, so you're still happy. So I remember getting sent to my first okay place, and I'm like, all right, this is pretty cool. I can live here. Like me and Grief have our own like little room, it's not too bad. And then they have like a place to call home. This is nice. Then they're like, no, you're going somewhere else. So I'm like, all right, this is great. So we drive out to the middle of nowhere, and it's like this. It was actually this mansion that this like terrorist owned, and the unit before all that took it over. They like got him out of there, and they took over this big mansion.
Do they kill him?
I don't know. I don't know.
I'm just curious, like,
Yeah, what happened to
bunch
him?
of like terrorists like living in a mansion. I'm thinking like Jake Paul's Team 10 house back in the day, like a bunch of little YouTubers in a house. There's like
Probably what it was.
yeah, like a bunch of terrorists.
Yeah, I don't know if they scattered out the back and took off, or if they like captured
him,
or
apprehended
retired
him. Yeah, wow.
I know the story was because I was like, this is weird. It's in the middle of nowhere. Like, yeah, this was like had like big walls. It was made of tile. It was really cool looking. I have a piece of the tile I took home from the thing, but it was like this really cool building, and they took over it, and it's like this little city inside of a building.
That's pretty baller.
Yeah, it was
now
pretty
you're like,
sick.
this is ours now.
Yeah, I know, right? Like, yeah, see ya. Like, we're gonna keep this and just work out of it, Like, so.
Yeah.
I was like amped to be there. I was like, this is cool. And then I'm there, and they're like, oh, you're attached to this little sniper platoon. And I'm like, where the heck are they? They're like, well, you guys gotta walk. I've never this is the first time walking ever. So now I went to like 3 different bases, and I made the biggest mistake of my entire life. The last time
Are you sure it was? Are
Maybe.
you sure it's the biggest mistake?
Probably not. No, I shouldn't say that.
a big
Yeah.
mistake,
It was a big mistake. It was a huge one. I'm at the one place where I get a phone call, and I'm like, hey, babe, I'll call you when I'm at the next base.
This is your wife now?
Yeah. I'll call you when I'm at the next base. Like, I know there's going to be a phone there.
Okay.
Yep. So then they're like, get to the place, and now you're walking in the middle of nowhere. So it's the first time I'm out, and I swear it's like the feeling of going out for the first time is like, you can't compare it.
How many guys are walking?
I'd say it was like 12, 13.
So not a
Nah,
lot.
it was like a little platoon. Like, this is the sniper platoon. So they had like 3 sections, and like it would be 12 guys, 12 guys, 12 guys.
No
and
Hummers, nothing.
nothing. Like, the 12 of them came and got me, and they were just there like picking me up and then like chilling for a minute, and then they were all walking back, and they've been there like a month already. They're used to this, so they're just like chilling, and I'm like, like looking everywhere, like, that's got to be a bomb. Like, you know what I mean? Every little piece of disturbed dirt, like,
Sure.
the way Grief like moved around, because he's new too. He's smelling.
Do you have other dogs on that little 12 person?
Nah, I was the only one in that whole area. So like I was working out of that whole area. So I was attached to them, and we're walking through the desert step by step. And I'm like, this is outrageous.
That's intense.
Yeah. And then we get to this first crossing, because they would have like fields of dirt, and then there'd be like these little creeks. Like,
is it all flat, like no
all
mountains?
flat.
Okay.
Yeah, where the area I was at was all flat. It was just desert
Like Kansas.
everywhere. Yeah, yeah,
Nothing.
exactly. Yeah, that's true. That's actually my brother-in-law's out in Kansas right now, and they said it's literally flat. Like,
Yeah, there's nothing there.
yeah. They said there's this road that you drive on for like 8 hours.
Yes,
Not
to get to Colorado.
Yeah.
It's the only way
That's
I know
really
about it. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So yeah, it's literally like Kansas except brown and dirty. You know, it's just all dirt.
Yeah.
And then you would have these little like aqueducts, I guess, or little creeks or canals, so like water can irrigate things and stuff, like where it would catch water. And I'd say it was probably the size of this table, and like all the guys are used to it, so they're just like jumping over it. And I'm like, all right, I can jump over it. I'm not like I got a lot of gear on, but like I can do it. I go to jump, and I get pulled back because dude man's behind me, like stopped at the thing, and I'm like, oh, I gotta do him first. Yeah, he's waiting. Like, why are you jumping over this? Like, I'm waiting. So he's standing on the other side. I trip, get my boots wet, and
All
then
the
I have
guys
to,
laughing at you? Or?
oh yeah, dude. They're like, great, we're picking this kid up. Like he
Right.
doesn't. Yeah, so it's embarrassing. You think you're gonna die. So I'm like, Grief, hop up, like jump over, and then he just beep, beep, like jumps over.
You should have asked.
Yeah. You should have asked. I know. That's what I said. So from now on, I know. I like stop him, and I'm like, jump, and he's like, got ya.
Yeah.
So he jumps over. We go. We get up to this thing. Then we get there. It's literally like if this table's the big base, it's like this big. You know what I mean?
Okay.
Like there's like a big Hesco wall, which is just like a big dirt basket wall, and 2 little tents inside. And they had one tent that had air conditioning, one that didn't. And I was overflowed. Like I wasn't supposed to like be there yet. So like I was like trying to like be cool. I was like, I'll just sit in the the unair conditioning one. I signed up for this for air conditioning, but I'm like, I'm not gonna do that. You know what I mean?
Right.
I'm not. So
Yeah,
me and
yeah.
him would go over there, and it was just us and like maybe 27 guys or something, and we would work out of there. So like they'd have little villages, and we'd have to go out. And if we go to an area, I put Grief out in front, search it, then they come in behind me and start doing stuff. And that was the day to day. And then there's no timing. So it could be, let's go out from 8 in the morning till 12, come back, take a rest, and go out from like 5 to 10 at night. There was one time that we went out all morning. We walked so long, and then we worked an area, and then we had to walk all the way back. And that particular day was like one of the worst days that I had while over there. It was like in the first month. I talk about it, but it's the worst thing that happened to me because part of our group, or part of our rules, is that if an animal comes, or any threat that comes too close to Grief, has to be eliminated. Like no questions asked, because his life is more important than anything. So we do this long day, and we're walking back to base, and we're going through this field, and overseas they have like these giant Afghan Mastiff dogs. Like, you know what I'm talking about? The big Afghans, like they look like bears, like big.
Like Tibetan Mastiff looking dogs.
That's exactly what it is. Yeah, and they're mutts, and they're just massive sandlot dogs. And we're going through, and I'm so tired, and it's 1,000 degrees. And then out of nowhere, off the side of this mountain, like off this little hill where this building was, I hear, "Moo, moo, moo," and he's just charging, like coming at us. And I'm like, there's no way. Like, please stop. And usually this happens. They're around. And, like, we have lasers that will, like, point in, like, their eyes. And it like, hurts their eyes. And they go away. Or we'll throw a rock at them or something, He kept coming. And he kept coming. And I'm like, there's no way. Now he's, like, 30 feet away.
And the other guys are like, we're going to kill him.
Yeah. Well, at this point, they didn't even know about this. Like,
Oh, you're by yourself?
No, we're all together. Like, I'm in the platoon. There's, like, 10, 12 other guys, and they're all there. But at this point, it never was like prominent because we never had this issue where like you have to, do it. So we're going, and then it's like 20, 30 feet away, and then Grief turns. He's getting interested, and he starts to walk towards this dog, like just, because he wasn't like bad with dogs, but I never trusted him. We don't socialize, you know what I mean?
Working dogs.
So he starts walking towards this dog, like, let me go check him out. And then I'm like, no way. And the dog keeps coming, and I'm like, Grief, come. And he slams on the brakes, turns back towards me, and I pick up my rifle and shoot one round over his head right into the dog's chest, and he squealed, bounced off, got up and ran back to the thing and just died. And at that point, it kind of slowly hit me, but I walked over to the side because now they're having this giant meeting about why we just murdered this dog. And I'm just dead, dude, fried. Like, this is horrible. Like, I don't want to do this. You know what I mean? Like, can you imagine being a dog person? And then this dog, you know what I mean? He didn't know. Like, he's just coming up to say hi, you know? And then, like, I regret shooting over my dog's head. Like, good thing I know what I'm doing. But, God, you know what I mean? Like, there's all these factors. And then, like, this whole thing just really messed with my head. Like, so thank God I was with a sniper platoon because I said, guys, if this ever happens again, you're welcome. You know what I mean? Like,
You do it.
You do it. And they did it a couple more times.
Yeah.
Yeah. That was worse. That was bad. Yeah.
Yeah, man, that's tough. You know, it's just a different world. Like,
That's what I mean. It's like,
but here's the thing is like, and I think this is like the problem is they're taking young men and women like you and they're putting them into an environment that they have to act and do completely different stuff. And I think that that's what messes so many people up is they're like, this is not your life.
Yep.
Like you're shooting random dogs and you're shooting people and it's just so tough to like go back to here and be like, oh yeah.
absolutely.
Like, dude, I remember one time, for an example, I lived in, I worked at a wolf sanctuary in Colorado. This is not the same. This is not the same, but to me, it was a little the same. It was way remote, way up in the middle of nowhere, self-sustained wolf sanctuary in southern Colorado outside of Pueblo. And they literally like catch rain to take showers.
Wow.
Solar everything. Very like
That's off grid. Yeah.
very off the grid, right? And I was up there for 2 weeks, and it was wolves and tents and teepees and just like off the grid.
Yeah.
And then when I went back into the city, into Colorado Springs to fly out, I'm like looking around like, this is such a culture shock because I was just with I just drove 4 hours and, you know, so I can't imagine what it's like. Because I remember sitting in the airport thinking like, I have, you know, wolf hair on me.
Yeah.
And
I can't believe I just did that.
I can't believe I just did that. And I can't believe everyone's just sending emails and on their laptops and calling and the kids. And it's just like,
It's a perspective. Yeah.
it's definitely a perspective thing. And it's almost like a very inevitable selfish perspective of, I can't believe these people don't know that I was just doing this.
right. Right.
And then when you, same thing with you,
That's what a lot of vets do. They come back and they're like, well, I did this. You know what I mean? Like they get snappy and
people don't, you know, they're like, yeah, it's almost like this selfish thing where, yeah, I just can't imagine like having to go over and live that life and do things that you would never want to do or you could even legally do here.
Right, yeah.
And then you come back and they're like, yeah, go on with your, it's like, yeah, but I can't, like, there's this like transition period. Like there's got to be this holding tank of getting back to the reality. It's kind of like going deep diving, right? When you go super, super deep, like you can't just go to the top and be normal. You have to go, you have to adjust so you don't die.
yeah, no, that's true.
Your brain doesn't explode.
The pressure will be too much that
Exactly.
you can't take it. Like,
Yeah.
it's a great metaphor to what happens to them. You know, so much pressure to like try to reintegrate and
And they just go right to the top.
absolutely, yeah,
Deal with it.
yeah,
Go back to being a dad and a husband and a wife. And
yep.
anyway, so, okay, Afghanistan, we're killing local dogs.
Murking them. Yeah.
So now, so you got your taste of
that was the taste of it,
hiking around and you're looking for explosives with your dog for your team. And then you're what's the next steps for you guys?
So like the way that from that point on, like the story just really evolves. It just takes off. And it was like, because that was a small, slow period. It was 2 months with these guys. I got really acclimated to the culture there. I was in a desert. You know what I mean? I knew the environment. It became so much complacent. Like, I'm not scared anymore. I go out there. I'm just
normal.
Yeah, now I'm just living.
It's wild.
You know, we're just chilling. Reef's doing his thing, and we had a routine, whatever that was. You know, like taking well showers, you dump it in the thing. You know, so we had a little thing. You know, but then it's about the end of July or August, and we get a call. They were like, "Hey, you got to go back to Camp Leatherneck, that big, awesome city base, to do retraining." And I'm like, "Okay, like that's normal. We're supposed to be doing that." So they load me up. I get over there, and I stop at the other place on the way home. I'm going, you know, back to the trips, you know, getting back to the big one. And I run into my buddy who I haven't seen in 2 months. He's in the chow hall, you know, so I'm waiting in line, and I see him sitting down, and he was with Recon, and they were there on their stop. And I go up, and I take my tray, and I slap him on the back of the head, you know what I mean? He gets up, we give each other a big hug, you know, it's like yesterday, you know, they never seen each other. And then he winds up being like, "Yo, did you hear what happened to Max?" And I'm like, Max. I'm like, no, what dog is Max? Like, you know what I mean? Like, that's weird. And he's like, yeah, did you hear? He's like, yeah, Max was searching for IEDs over with this other group, and he found one. He found 3 of them actually, and he was hit by an IED and he was killed. So he was one of our dudes, and his name was Max Donahue. And the whole time I'm in denial as
The
he's
dog,
telling me
right?
the
His
story.
name is Max.
No, that's what I'm saying. His name is Corporal Max Donahue.
Okay.
But we always referred to each other as our last names.
Right,
You know,
right.
sometimes it was always first names, but in my head, you know what I mean? Like, I'm in denial. You know what I mean? Like, I just think, what dog was that? You know what I mean? Like,
Okay, I got you.
yeah. But then his dog's name was Fenji. So my buddy Max was searching a roadway, and he found an IED, and then they pushed back 25 meters to evaluate it. You know, he pushed back, but it was daisy chain. So there was 1, 2, they're all down the road. So, like, I think 2 of them, found 2 of them, and then the third one went off, and he was hit, so he was killed. He was actually injured very badly, and they sent him off to Germany, and he wound up passing away in Germany, just because how severe it was. But when he told me this, dude, I was like, there's no way. Like, there's, you know, to hear that. And then later on, I find out I'm coming back to Leatherneck just for retraining, but also they're doing his memorial because they're doing his memorial, so they're pulling us all back. And that's when I found out. And that changed the landscape of the entire deployment. It wasn't just working and let me get used to this. It was, it's real. You know what I mean? Like, I got used to this is what we're supposed to do, but now it's 1,000% real. Like, we need to go out there 1,000. Like, we were working 100%. It's got to be 150 now.
Was that like your first loss overseas that you?
More or less, we had another incident that happened when we first got there. We were only there about a week. And the other unit, I remember I told you, like, a couple guys went over first. So there was a couple handlers that were working with the other MPs that went over there. It's like, you know, a group. And they were in a vehicle, man. And they were driving and they were going through this barrier thing. And then the dirt road gave away and the vehicle flipped into a river. And these things are steel vaults. You know what I'm saying? And to have that fall down into a river, trying to get the door open on land is hard enough. Trying to do it underwater. So they're able to rip the door open. The one handler jumped out. This dude jumps back into the water, and he sees the belaying of the dog collar in there. So he rips his dog out, who is the most aggressive dog in the world, by the way. He can't be touched. So he rips the dog out, gets his dog to safety. He dives back in the water, and unfortunately, we lost 3 guys that day. One of them was our driver for the thing. He was somebody, he wasn't a handler, but he was an MP guy, and he was the first one in our company that went. And we heard that story a week in the country, and it was like, man, it's horrible. And it hit us, you know what I mean? But he wasn't a part of it. I'm not like downplaying anything, but it's like, it wasn't our guys, you know what I mean? But then, so when we lost Max, it was like one of my brothers, you know what I mean? Like, it was like, we knew it was real because stuff happens, but when we knew our job is to go out there and find bombs and they will go off, that's it.
It's like the most dangerous job ever.
It is.
I mean, your job is to literally go out and find things that are actually trying to kill everyone.
Yep. And we're in front. So if your dog misses it or I miss it, you know, AODs, they're a bad job, but they just throw a bomb on it and they blow it up. Like, you know what I mean? Like, that's, with us, it's like you're out in front. Like, you're going to trip it, or your dog's going to trip it, or you're going to find an IED and save everyone's life behind you.
I'm surprised they haven't figured out some sort of technology that can go out and just scan mass areas.
Right? I know. They do. The one great piece of technology that they invented was they would hit trucks on roads, right? So all they did was put like this giant arm and then put like 16 wheels on the front of it and to act as like a bumper. So it's like having like a giant rake. Like if you had a rake behind you, they put it like in the front. So if they're driving, it'll blow up 15 feet in front and then
like a buffer,
yeah. So they did have that, which was cool, and that was useful. That went off all the time.
That's what I was thinking. Is
used
like
mine detectors, like the metal detectors.
Right.
So when I was with the Brits, they used metal detectors. So like they'd have the dogs, and then the guy would be like beep 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 beep. That was the craziest experience of my life, by the way, because they would go beep beep beep, and they put an X on the ground, and they go, all right, we're going this way. Don't hit it. We're like, because there was just stuff everywhere.
That's insane. Yeah, I'm surprised they don't have I'm thinking
An X-ray machine just to scan,
or even like a GPS big metal thing, like with wheels, right? And it goes on your route, and it just goes in front of you on a motor.
Yep.
And it just is like a roller, right? Like like you would do biscuits, right? It's just like a roller that has wheels with weight, heavy, and it just hits the ground, and that just goes in front of you before you go there. That way, if anything goes off, because that would trigger it.
I mean, that would be a great idea. I think so. This is what
That's neat. That's crazy.
You brought it up though, and this is something we always say to people all the time because this conversation happens with a lot of people who really don't understand it. Is that the best way we can put it is these dogs are proven to work but not be perfect, right? Like anything. But the one thing a dog will never do is give up, run out of batteries, have a mounting function. You can't trust a robot 100%. Right. I know if I learn my dog's behavior, I can trust him that there's something there.
Yeah, that's true.
If the thing goes down and that thing beeps or it doesn't beep and we all die, it's like, you know what I'm saying? So like that's the thing we always fall back on is throughout the years and centuries since we started this in like World War II and like into Vietnam, sentry dogs, like they're always, always, always going to work.
Yeah.
And then we can trust them, So that's why it's like the one part of the world that will never go away. You know what I mean? Like you'll never not need a dog. Like it's the perfect thing, They're not perfect. Like they're going to screw up, But so that was like the big wake up call for us. And I had to deal with that and suffer that loss. It just really lit a fire on us. It wasn't fun and games anymore. It wasn't just movie nights and doing obedience on the side. Like, your mentality changes and it hardens you because now it's like we're here, we're not messing around.
Could have been you.
Yeah, could be you all the time, and that's what we say all the time. And it wasn't even like, even my staff sergeant they were so good to you guys. They were like, if you guys need an extra day or two, recuperate, grieve, call whatever you got to do. I don't want to send you out there if you're not ready. And every single one of us was like, I want to go back to work immediately because someone else is going to get hurt if we're not out there. So that's how.
Wow.
That's how the whole thing changed. And then from there, it just evolved. Like it was just worse and worse and worse. And my story really kicked off when we get sent to the Army. We actually worked with the Army because they had this big push, this big mission going on, and the Army didn't have any dogs. So they sent like 24 of us over there to work in Kandahar with the Army. And it was like a big deal. They put it like up to the Pentagon. It was like they were arguing about doing it. Like it had to be like cleared, you know what I mean, back here in the States. And they finally cleared us, so we went over there and worked with them. And that was crazy. They were getting hit every day.
Wow.
Every single day they were getting hit.
So they wanted your dogs.
Yeah. They needed dogs real bad. So, yeah, it was and when we got there, it was like nonstop. Like everybody no matter where you were, something was happening. IEDs getting shot at. It was bad. And
that was just a different part. That was a different part of Afghanistan.
Yeah. Like they were in we were in Helmand and then they were in like Kandahar. So it might be like different states or something, but it was like a different part. But yeah, Kandahar was bad. And that's where it really kicked off for us. And that was in September, and then I only made it till October. So, and our deployment was supposed to be till the end of December.
So when you get there, what's the process? Like what happens then?
So same deal. We get to the big base, and then at Kandahar, they split us all up, and 2 of us go here, 2 of us go there, 2 of us go here. And honestly, I get sent to this place called Cop Terminator. Pretty awesome. And we go in, introduce ourselves. We got to go in there, sell yourself again. This is my dog. This is his limitations and capabilities. This is what he's able to do. It was fortunate because I was with an SSD dog, the off-leash one. Real good Israeli dog. So he would handle all the off-leash stuff, like big areas. I'm not going to go out on a 6-foot, scanning 100 yards. And then I would be doing all the buildings and, stuff like that, like small stuff. So we're standing there trying to do our limitations brief. And on the monitors, we see like people on like the thing doing like their mission on the road because you can like monitor what they were doing.
Cameras?
Yeah, like we had camera on our top of our thing, and we're watching it. Next thing you know, the monitor goes black, and then a shockwave goes through the building, and we're like,
shockwave?
Yeah, like we felt
sound.
it.
Oh, okay.
We felt the boom. The truck just got hit by an IED. Like we were there 5 minutes, and then it's like 10:30 at night, and I'm like, me and my buddy are like,
damn.
Yeah, okay, let's do this. So they were like, hey, we don't have to ask you guys to go out if it's too much. And we're like, no, sir, we can do secondary searches. Like, we'll go up there making sure there's nothing else to get your guys up there safely. So we're like, all right. So me and him both get geared up. We run into the tent. We get our stuff. We run back to the thing, waiting for the helicopter. Like, it literally felt like Zero Dark 30, dude. Like, it was 11:30 at night, like real dark. The copter comes down. They're like, we're only bringing 1 dog. So now me and him are like, and I felt horrible. I'm like, dude, it's probably better if you do it because you have an off-leash dog. Like, you know what I mean? Like, he can send his dog up to a roadway. So he wound up going. And I go back to the thing. I'm watching him. I hear the helicopter go over the building. And then he comes down. I see him on the green screen, like the monitor, and he's walking. He gets down, and I see his dog going out like 100 yards. And he's searching the road, scanning it beautifully. And then he goes up. Before he even gets close enough, the other IED goes off. And I'm in so much disbelief. I'm
How
like,
did it go off?
just another one. Like it either was just by accident. It could have been triggered. It could have been a delayed thing. You know, these things aren't perfect. They bury Radio Shack stuff in the dirt. You know what I mean? So these things would go off. That's why sometimes we'd be walking over an area 20 times and nothing will happen, and all of a sudden it'll blow up because it could have just been the connections.
Yeah. Okay.
Because most of the time the way they work is they're pressure plates. So there's two pieces of metal, and then when they connect, it completes the circuit and it makes the thing go boom.
So they're not ever controlled remotely.
So sometimes they are. So they would have
watch you.
Yeah, they'd watch, and then you see, and they wait, boom, and then they hit you again.
That's just crazy to wrap your head around. That there's just people out there that are.
No, they don't care, dude. It's like
I know that's just wild.
And I'm sitting here watching my buddy like search up to a bomb that just went off. I'm like, I hope there's no more. You know, that's like. So that was it. That was like, this is like the height of the deployment. That was like nuts. Yeah. So then. From there, we do like basic day-to-day stuff. We started getting a routine, and I was able to have one find the entire deployment. We were searching this building. It was right where that bomb went off. There was like a little strip of like stores, which is like mud buildings, and one of them had nothing but supplies in it. And it looked like just kind of like an Ace Hardware for terrorists. You know what I mean? Like it just looked like stuff, like tools and stuff. And he was searching. He spun that room like 10 times.
Now, are there locals there, like looking at you?
Oh, yeah,
Are they helping you? Like, do they give you dirty looks? Like, what's the culture like there with you guys there?
They hate dogs. 100% hate them. Yeah, like they don't like them. Like you said, they have them there, but I think it's mostly for like protection. Like, you know what I mean? They bark. Yeah, like, but they're not pets. You know, so anytime they had grief or anybody in the picture, they were like, no. And they would even say, he's not searching this room. And we're like, okay, now I have to search it. That's shady. You know what I mean? Like, but it's because he hid all like the women and children in there, you know, because they couldn't be around us and stuff.
Why?
So it's just like a culture thing. Like you can't like look at them or something. Like searching them is really delicate. You have to have women around and everything. So, and then like the children. So they would always hide the women and children in one particular room. Like, and then we can search the whole building. We're like, that's all fine and dandy, but now get them out and I'm still searching this room. Because where are you going to hide stuff? You know what I mean?
Do you ever search like the kids?
No, you never search people, ever. So like we never did people searches. It was actually
Why?
an incident. Most of the time, because if God forbid they're strapped with something, what are you going to do about it? You know what I mean? Like if they have an IED on them, it's because they're trying to blow you up. You know what I mean? A suicide bomber doesn't wear it all the time just to carry it around. You know what I'm saying? So if they're wearing it, they're going to blow you up. So we don't search people. And other reasons is just in case something happens. You don't want them to bite just because, you know what I mean? Because they flinch or something. You know, so there's a lot of different reasons.
Yeah.
We just do, once you get them cleared, you can do hand searches and stuff. Patting them down, things like that. So, yeah, but we always made sure we searched every inch, whether they liked it or not. Yeah, there was one time where there was like a big bin, like in someone's room, and it was covered in grain, like flour or grain or something. And I'm like, that's shady. I can definitely hide some stuff in there. So I helped Grief up in there, and he's like, knee deep in like this guy's like 4-foot grain pile, and I'm like feeling bad. I'm like, it's like their food, but they were pissed. I mean, they were mad, but we have to do it. So half of it was like stamping on their culture too, you know, like it was bad. Like,
did you ever feel like love from them, and they were like, thank you for?
Oh yeah, you get that too. Like they would always like thank you or something, like because like we're there to protect them. You know
right,
what I mean?
that's what I mean.
Yeah, so there was that love too. It's just like sometimes they just were. You never felt it. Like it's not like they're going out of their way. So at least in the areas I worked, like I can't speak for everybody, but that was like a big thing for us. Was like it was just always like a barrier, always a cultural barrier.
Kind of pissed them off.
Yeah.
They're like, so what? Like, yeah, okay.
And then when we were in Kandahar, it was different because they kind of evacuated the area. It was like if you were there, you were a bad guy.
You're a terrorist.
Yeah, because that whole area was so hot, and they were trying to do this big mission, this big push, where they're going to empty out an area and make a road, or something like that. So
terrorist?
No, like we were going to
Military?
blow up everything and then just make like a hard road so that we can have a path to drive through because it was such a weird spot. And they were like, everybody get out of here, and if you're still here, you're a hostile person, you know. So there wasn't many locals we dealt with in Kandahar.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
So it's a ghost town, kind of.
Yeah, kind of, yeah. So it was good, but bombs were going off all the time, and you know we got into one firefight, which was awesome. That was fun, and that happened right after I had a little find where Grief found a little supply thing, and then next thing you know, like a big boom, and then we're getting shot at overhead, and we're like running down this wall, and I'm with him, and it's really cool because I was like kind of scared. I'm freaking out, you know what I mean? My heart rate's going and
Sure, man.
freaking out and running.
Shot at.
Yeah, and then we're behind a like nice wall, so it was scared enough, but not that scared. Then when I get there, I'm like shooting anything. You know, I'm like, oh, I'm gonna get this guy. I'm gonna get this thing. You know, I'm shooting, and then I look down at Grief, and he's just chewing on his Kong, just like laying there, like nothing happened. Like he's just like, I'm like, you good? Like, cause stuff's going on, you know, like they don't care. Like he was just chilling. So
That's what he's made for.
yeah. So as long as he had his Kong, yeah,
That's
yeah.
cool.
Yeah, it was a fun time.
So then from in this area in Afghanistan, what's the process there? Like you're searching buildings and you know, what's the next step? What's the next move?
Well, so this is where my deployment kind of ends, because this is where we're doing this giant mission. We're with the Army. We're having good days, bad days, but we get to the part where they have to do this big mission where they're clearing everything, right? So we're supposed to go out for like 7 to 10 days, and I already said, like, in the morning I get up and I'm like, hey, can't talk for a while. You know, I learned from my mistakes. So I'm just calling home, being like, hey, boo, calling in a little bit. I got to go to work for a week or two. So if you don't hear from me, it's not a problem, you know, because like if you don't hear from him once a week, it's like,
Yeah.
what happened, you know? So I said, all right, I'll call you later. I got to go out for a week or two. And then after that, we'll be wrapping up to come home. Like, this is the last big mission. So we go out. Luckily, they drove us out there because it was going to be a long day. So they drop us off right at the end of that place where we started working before. Then we start clearing room after room after room. This building's good. Moving on to the next one. It was just going through this whole area. And then we get to this road, and the guys were with the Afghan guys. So, like, luckily for us, the Afghan army worked with us all the time.
That was good.
Yeah, and we put them in front. So, like, they would go through an area first.
Makes sense.
Yeah, so it's extra feet just in case they trip something. We're behind them, but I'm in front, so I'm like the buffer in between. And we get to this spot, and they go, hey, we found an IED. So they had to blow it up. So we're sitting there on the like little area next to a wall, and we're just chilling. And then the Afghan guys, they plant the charge, they blow it up. And then we go down again, and then we get to this part of the road where it ends the village, and then it goes into this farm field. And then they go, all right, we found another IED. So literally it was like every 20 feet where we were supposed to walk was an IED. So we were waiting. And as we're sitting there, we're like taking a break because they're like, we're going to do another controlled det. Everybody just relax. So I'm sitting there. It's just me, Grief's right here, just chilling, right? We're not working. Like, there's a kid right here with his chair is just sitting next to me. And then one other guy up front. And as we're sitting there, he's playing with my dog and we're talking, you know, he's always like, oh, he's like my dog back home. You know, it was good for everybody because everybody loved feeling that connection of home, you know? Like,
Yeah, dog.
Yeah, like it brought them out of it. Like it literally was just at so much peace, just being like, I'm not here. And that's what helped me get through the deployment was always having him on my side. You know, that dog connection and just really just feeling at home.
Well, it's like a family member, right? Like when
Exactly.
you're back in the States and you're training with your buddy and then you're getting deployed, you're bringing him with you.
Right.
It's like bringing your brother with you.
Yeah.
It's like this feels better. It's
sibling.
not good, but it feels better.
Yeah. And it's like the reminder, it just felt like home. And this kid, we're just talking and chilling. And the next thing you know, they're like, all right, we're going to do a controlled det. Everybody get up, move back another 20 feet. So we get up, I hook Grief up, and we walk around. And after like a second, a big boom goes off. And we're just covered in dust and smoke and everything. And I'm like, that's weird. And everybody was like, that wasn't the controlled detonation. And then I turned around and Grief's retractable leash, because I hooked him up to a retractable to be able to have flexibility, was just like 30 feet out into this cloud of smoke.
Jesus.
And I was like, all right, well, something just went off and he's not doing well. And I was like just pulling, because I knew he's not going to respond. Like, that was way too close. And as I'm pulling, he's not moving. And I'm like, something happened. So I go up and I see him. He's standing there just like stoic, like scared. And it's attached to his collar still. And I was like checking him and he seemed to be fine. But then I turn around and there's this giant hole in the floor on the ground. And there's a kid in the hole. And he's wailing his arms and he's screaming and he's like freaking out. And I'm
How old?
probably 20 years old. He was a young kid,
Okay.
And he's in the hole wailing his arms and legs and screaming. And he's got blood a little bit on his face. And I was like kind of confused. I'm like, if this IED went off, like, how did this kid fall in the hole? Like, you know what I mean? Like, that doesn't make any sense. So
He's speaking a different language too, right?
no, this was an American kid.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Sorry, I thought he was a local.
No, yeah, he was an American kid.
So he was a
one of us.
military.
He was
okay,
right next to us.
Okay, I got you.
And he's in the hole and he's like moving. I'm like, well, if he's moving his arms and legs, he's fine. You know what I mean? Like, he's got him.
Yeah.
If he's screaming, he's breathing. So like, he's kind of okay. So like, I let him.
Stable, yeah.
He's got to be stable. So then I just was like, I posted up, I went up a little bit and I got into an area where I was like just scanning because I'm like, they're going to attack us. Like, that was too close. Like, something's going on. So I was just watching. Grief's underneath me in a down, just like waiting to get to work. And then they're addressing this kid and they're like, all right, he's got like, some injuries. And we're like, all right, whatever. He's fine. So then they're like, hey, Brenner, can you search an area for like a landing zone? Because we have to get this kid out of here. So there was a little field. So I was looking at Grief and he was not responsive. Like, his ears were gone. You know what I mean? He was probably rattled. His brain was probably fried. He was right next to this explosion that just went off. So I was like, we got to go. Like, 6 feet are better than 2. You know what I mean? Like, we're going to walk this area. I'll do my best. So I just kind of like mind swept the area with him. And honestly, it was probably a really dumb move. Do you know what I mean? Like, he's not working. I'm just doing a spiral.
Yeah.
Just trying to kick up dirt. Because I figure if I'm going to get hurt, that's fine. I don't want a helicopter to land here and get blown up. So me and him just walked around. And as I'm coming around in this spiral, I see guys up on the roof that we're sitting next to. And they were taking down the kid that was blown up. The kid, Steven, that was sitting next to me was on top of an IED. And when it went off, he was shot up on the roof.
Oh, whoa.
And he was killed instantly. So that's when I was spinning around and I see it and everyone's like, turn away, we got to get him out of here. And it was just when I put my head down. I'm like, can't do it. This is crazy. So Grief's done. They're getting this kid out of here. So now we have to get both of them out of here. The other kid was the one in front who fell into the hole. So they got them out of there. We got them on the helicopter and going. And it was a bad day so far. So we go up to this other building to be like, we're going to go in here and just stop for the night. Like, it's been a bad day. We just got to like clear the building and then just sleep. And then we'll get up in the morning. We got to readdress, you know what I mean? So yeah, we get up there and there's 2 big buildings. And the one guy, the sergeant major we're with, is like, all right, we search this one. And he's like, actually, this one looks worse. He's like, let's go search the one that looks worse, right? This guy is seasoned. He's been in for like 30 years. You know what I mean? This dude was like invincible. You know what I mean? So he's like, let's do the big bad building. So I go with him and I'm with all the head guys, like the captain, the sergeant major, the medics with us. We have an interpreter and 2 Afghan guys. So I'm searching around the building once. We get to the back door and there's a door, right? And remember what I said about money? Mm-hmm. No building had a door unless it was bad. Like, what are you locking up?
Oh, okay.
Right? So there was this big metal door and the one sergeant major dude was so hardcore. He's like, hey, I'm going to go in this building by myself. So he gave me his rifle, and then he put a knife in his mouth and climbed the wall. Like, he scaled the wall.
It's like a movie.
It really was. He jumped over the wall, and it was like 9 feet high or something. We lifted him up. He falls in, and I'm like, I'm thinking like, dude.
Did you have walkies? Like, what's your?
No, I mean, I did. I had a communication. He didn't. I mean, he's probably got smoke signals or something off his butt. So, I mean, but like, I was always in communication. I was K91 or something. Okay. So like, if they needed me, I'd be like, all right, I'm coming over. So this dude scales his wall, and I'm like, that's rule number 1. Like, you don't go in a building by yourself. You know what I mean? But I'm fried at this point. I'm like, I don't really care.
Yeah,
like,
just saw your buddy die, and
just like this kid just went. Like, Grief is done. Like, I don't even know why I'm still here, but I am. You know what I mean? Like, we'll figure it out later. But so he's on the other side, and he's doing his thing. And then the guy I'm with, the captain, this dude's like 6'4", dude, like 300 pounds, and he wants to take down this door. He's like, I'm gonna break this door down. I'm like, all right. Like, I'm sure. I'm not gonna. You're a captain. I'm not gonna argue with you. So he starts peeling the mud away, and he just starts yanking on this door, like ripping on it. And then he's like, "Here, hold my rifle." So, cause he's got stuff bouncing over. So I have the other dude's rifle, his rifle, my rifle, a pistol, and a dog. Like, I'm just looking like a gear guy. Just like I'm looking like the caddy. You know what I mean? Like, just holding everything. So he starts yanking on this door, and then the Afghans start freaking out. They're like, "No, what I was doing about that?" They're like, "Don't touch the door." And he's like, are you kidding me? Like, I'm breaking down this door. Like, we're getting in there. So basically what they said is you can't, like, damage property. And the interpreter's, like, telling us, and we're like, you tell them, we'll pay for it. We're breaking this door down. Like, I don't care. So he starts yanking it. throws the door down like Superman, dude. Like he bent the door and everything. I couldn't believe it. Door hits the ground. And then he's like, all right, take a picture of it so we can pay for it later. So who else has this camera? Like I do, because I had to document everything, like for like canine stuff. So I had a camera. It was like a cheap little like thing, you know. Took it out. Took a picture of the doorway, and then took a picture of the door after he killed it. It's like on the ground. So I took a picture, and then I put it back. And then around the corner comes the guy who scaled the wall, the sergeant major. He's like, yo, I got in the front door. It's all clear. He's like, it's clear. We're good. And we're like, I'm laughing. I'm like, dude, this is crazy. Like, we did all this work. He's in there. He's cleared this building by himself. I don't know how many people he killed. You know what I mean? I'm thinking like all this stuff in my head. So I give the captain his rifle back, and then I go walk back to give him the other one. And as I'm walking, I took like 2.5 steps. And then before I took my third step, like everything stopped. And then there was nothing but like this piercing sound and like white light. And that's when I was hit by an ID, just right in the wall, waist high. And like weirdest feeling ever, dude. It felt like nothing. Like it just felt like everything just stopped. And it felt like I was spinning through the air like 1,000 times. Like I just felt like floating and floating. Then like that high pitched sound just went up, and I'm like, I just died. Like I'm going to heaven. Like this must be that, you know, that sound of death. You know, I have no idea. And then after which felt like forever, the floating stopped, and then like I just felt like still. And then I hear people start to like scream and like, who's down, who's hit, and I'm on the ground. So that's when I realized I'm not dead, I'm alive. And I don't know what's going. You know what I mean? I felt like I flew through the air like 1,000 times. So I'm like, I lost both arms, both legs. Like I'm done. You know what I mean? Like I'm probably just a torso just bleeding out.
Did you like step on it? I don't know.
It was waist high in a wall. Like I honestly don't know the entire story. It's just speculation that it was remote control because there was people watching us. There was like just to target us because we were standing there for like an hour. Like we were right there, like
Ripping down
walking.
doors.
Yeah, like I was right there the whole time, and it was waist high in a wall. So what they do is like when guys go to like breach a door, you know, like 6 guys would be like kicking the door down and then go in. They'd maim like all 6 of you. You know what I mean? So like they would kill like 6. Like instead of 6, they would get like, you know, 1 if they wanted to. So that's the thing. Or it could be pressure plate. We walked over it, and maybe I was just the time that I tripped it. We don't really know. But yeah, so once I felt out the floating stopped, I was like, I'm alive. I'm definitely going to die. Like, you can't fly that
Did it
far.
hurt?
No. It honestly didn't hurt. It was the weirdest feeling in the world. I don't know if it was a blessing or miracle or if it was just like scientifically there was so much damage that it was impossible to commute. You know what I mean? Like if you slam your finger in the door, your brain knows it's your finger. If you slam all your fingers in the door, like, you know what I mean? Like it's just hard to know which one it is. You know what I mean? Like I couldn't figure out where the pain was.
Yeah.
So I honestly didn't feel anything. So like I said, I don't know how that was a thing, but yeah, I'm just laying there. My eyes are closed because there's so much damage to my face, or enough to be not have my eyes open. And then I'm like waiting, and like I'm like waiting to die. Like I'm bleeding out. You know what I mean? Like they got to do something.
What are you thinking about? Like what's going through your head at that time when you're like, am I dead? Am I alive?
Yeah,
Am
like
I gonna die?
The first time was like I thought I was dead, but it was like no thought. Like I couldn't make any thoughts. I think I was just so out that I just nothing. It was just floating and like white lights. And then once I started to be able to think, like have a thought, first thought I had was like praying. I was like, you know, I'm gonna be like, God, you know, thank you. Like that was the easiest way to go ever. Like I'm so happy. Like God, thank you. Like I was just like, you know, please God, I love you, whatever. Like it's the first thing I want to know. And then once I because I thought I was dying, and then like once I realized I was like alive, I'm like, yo, my wife is gonna kill me. I literally thought, if I'm alive and I come back as like a torso, or like, you know what I mean? Like, how do we live and have a family with like no legs? You know what I mean? Like I was thinking about the last thing I said to her, and you know, I'll be okay. I always promise that I have faith that everything will work out, you know, all that stuff. And she used to always say like, we don't know. And you're right, we don't. And so that was the second thing I thought of, was just like, I ruined her, you know what I mean? Like, it's not about me anymore. It's like, I'm going to ruin the people around me's lives. You know what I mean? Like, cause that was us. That was like, I'm supposed to come home, have a life. So that went through my head for a while. And then once they started to evaluate me, and they were like, I felt them ripping my boots off, and I felt them like moving my arms around, I was like, okay, well, that means I have all my extremities if I feel, you know what I mean? Like, because they had to take everything off to see all the damage. So now I'm like really starting to panic. I'm like freaking out a little bit. I'm like, all
You're
right.
just asking, like, am I okay?
No, I was just like in between, just like kind of, I guess, praying and thinking and all that stuff, and just kind of like evaluating what they're saying. And the one guy thought I was like kind of freaking out a little bit, which I probably was, you know, but the doctor was there, and he was the medic for the captain. Like, he was the greatest medic ever, combat medic. And he's like patching me up, and he's yelling, put a tourniquet on, like, do this, like, patch this up, get this done, like, get it all, you know. He was really, really good. And then he goes, dude, relax, bro, you're gonna be all right. He's like, you're gonna be fine.
Wow.
And I'm like, dude, have you watched any movie ever?
Yeah.
Like, that's what they say to someone right before they're gonna die. Like,
Yeah.
And I said that to him, and he's like laughing, and he's like, are you serious right now? You're telling jokes? And I'm like, yeah, I mean, you're a jerk. Like, he's like, you're gonna be fine, man. You're gonna be okay. Just don't go to the light, you know? So he was good. He was amazing. And then I hear them, and I start hearing them say, like, all right, we're going to get him out of here. They call in the medevac, the helicopter, just like we did with the other guys. So I hear him on the radio. Hey, we got 1 wounded in action and 1 killed in action. Like, let's get him out of here. And I'm like thinking to myself, I'm like, who the heck died? Like, I'm alive, so it's not me. And I'm like, well, he's probably that captain. Like, he was messing with that door. He probably tripped something when he went in and, like, set me up. Or it was a sergeant major, like, walking back to me. I'm like, it's got to be him. Like, he had to die. And, like, I hear it again, and I'm like, KIA. But then I started to hear, like, everyone's voice. Like, I heard the sergeant major's voice.
Jeez, yeah. Fuck.
And then I started to hear, like, the captain's voice, and I was like, who the hell died? And then the one thing I realized as, like, a dog person is, like, we tell them all the time, if something happens to me, you need to know how to handle my dog. Like, you need to know grief come, or, like, you know, come here, buddy. Like, I didn't hear one person call his name. So that's the moment I realized that he was killed.
Fuck, man.
Yeah.
That's intense.
Yeah. So that was when I realized it. Of course, I wasn't able to, like, get upset or cry about it at the time because I was so, like, preoccupied with not dying. But when I heard that, I was like, he's not there. Like, he's gone. You know, he was right next to me, right on the wall, like, right there. So he probably essentially saved my life, you know. So that was it. And then they got me patched up and flew me out of there as fast as possible, get me to the hospital, and started that whole process. And that was the end of my deployment. So that was it. Yeah.
Did they bring him, though? Did they?
Yeah, it was like not a fight, but it was an honor that they flew me out of there. And my staff sergeant, it was just such a weird story, man. But like my staff sergeant, the guy, our fearless leader, he was flying in there to like evaluate the situation, not because of me, but because of something else. So he flies in with another handler. They get out. The other handler goes in, and he comes running back, being like, "Get over here! It's like, you got to come! Like, someone just got hit." And it was like confusion. It was like Brenner and Kitty. Kitty was the other dog, and they're like, "What are you talking about?" Like those, you know what I mean? Like there was all this confusion, and he just flew there when I was hit. So incidentally, like our dude, like my guy, flew in when I got hurt, and he was able to be there. And he was mad that they flew me out because obviously I had injuries. You know what I mean? But he's like, we got to get another burst. So they send another helicopter back just to pick up grief. And then they got him out of there. So they had his body and everything. And yeah, my guy got him cremated. And yeah, so.
Man, I'm sorry that happened. That's just, that's intense. But
Yeah,
it's like,
wow, man.
it's almost like you survived, but he didn't. And it's almost like you probably think about this all the time of like, you know, was the sacrifice him, or was he the one that got the blow because he's lower, or he was closer, or what, right? There's all this blame game that you probably deal with, right? Where it's like,
Yeah, I mean, the one thing that we always like, at least to us, is like, with, like I said, with Max and all these other guys, is like we know what we signed up for. You know what I mean? And like the thing that I struggled with the most is like he didn't.
why did you sign up for the military?
The military, college.
Just for college.
Just for-
right. So you're out there risking your life.
Challenging experience, money, college, travel. Like, don't get stuck at home. Don't waste 4 years studying, you know, anything. Just do something and then figure it out.
Adventure, I guess.
Yeah, just figure it out and see what happens next. I was always let's see what happens next person. And like I said, I didn't want to do K9, but somebody, you know, something pushed me to do that. And then once I was in there, I got assigned certain things, and I didn't want to be the guy who deployed, but I got stuck in the unit where they're like, you're going to deploy. So you change your mindset, go over there.
What's your feeling like when that happens and you're getting coptered out? I mean, are you emotional that you lost grief? Are you grateful that you're alive? What is your emotional state of mind at that time?
It was really numbing. Like, it was just a combination of just like, I think it was just so bad that, and I was so composed, so I don't know if it was just overwhelming that I didn't know. Once I get on the helicopter, like I heard like the bump, 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 and then like it get me on and can't hear anything. Like my hearing's all gone a little bit, but I can hear muffling, like the guys yell, because it's so loud up there. So I couldn't really hear it. Then they put me out or whatever. And the next thing you know, I feel like I was wheeled into a hospital. It was the like quietest sound I've ever heard in my life because they flew me to Bagram. So that was like the closest like real hospital.
Where's that?
It's in Afghanistan. It's a Bagram Air Base. So it's another air base. So it's another military base, but that's where like they had all the stuff that
Hospitals.
people work out of, and it's still like just a tent. It's like a giant like hospital tent, but they wheel you in there. They try to like patch you up and stuff. And that's the first time that I think they put me out, woke me up, and they tried to do like a surgery to like patch me up. And I got to talk to my guy, Chris Willingham, who was the staff sergeant. He was the one who flew in to get grief. And then a lieutenant that we had, like an officer, was there just to greet me. And I still couldn't see it this time. And he was like, hey, you're doing great. He's like, we want to let you know we can call Megan for you. And
Wow.
yeah, get her on the phone. He's like, you want to talk to her? And I'm like, what am I going to say? You know what I mean? Like, how do you break that news? So I made a really bad decision. But second bad mistake number 2, I was like, you tell her.
Yeah, so now she gets the call
From a random person that she's never talked to.
Hey,
Yeah. We got bad news. You know what I mean? Like, that's how bad it was. And she's out to dinner with my family
oh boy.
for my dad's birthday.
Oh God.
They went to Texas Roadhouse.
Wow.
And she is sitting at the table and her phone rings. And she goes, hi, I can't hear you. Bye. It like disconnects. So they call back again. It's like, hey, is this Mrs. Brenner? Whatever. And she's like, let me go outside. She goes outside. They tell her there's been an accident. Something happened. And it's the first time she's talked to anybody overseas
That's not you.
other than me. And she knows how it goes. They know that they send people to your house with a flag. Like, she knows that that's what they do if you die. They don't tell you over the phone.
Okay.
So
there's a little relief.
but not when you're in the moment. You know what I mean?
Right.
You hear it, your brain goes, so that was the worst news she's ever heard in her life. I mean, you don't think like that. Like, something bad happened and it could be life threatening. Like,
Yeah. I understand.
you know what I
that.
mean?
Yeah.
And so yeah, she's in the parking lot of Texas Roadhouse and just hearing that news and just I tried to write it. We wrote about it as best we could in the story, but it's interesting because it's from her perspective, so you can hear how it went down as best as we could. But she got it. She walked back to the table, trying to hold back the tears, and they all knew. It was just interesting that she was with our family,
And they were all like waiting for her to come back in.
yeah, to order her steak and like.
Right.
And like margarita with shooters and stuff.
Right.
Yeah. She wasn't even able to drink. Like, she wasn't even 21. That's how young we were.
Yeah.
And she comes back to the table. They already knew something was up, and she didn't have to say anything. They already knew. And that's how she found out. And luckily the upside was like she was with them, which is weird because if she got the call by herself, it would have been better. We go through this all the time. It would have been better if she was with her family to have the loving and support of her family, not
If you were
in-laws.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know what I mean? But then she'd have to re-break the news. We go through it all the time, but it's an odd story, but she got stuck with the burden of having to tell them. And my dad was very good. He was like, did you talk to him? She's like, yeah, why? I don't care. Like, what does that mean? He's like, well, that means he has like a brain. You know what I mean? He's not a soup sandwich.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
you can talk to him. He can breathe. You know what I mean? So, because I got on the phone there, I was like, hey, baby. She's like, this isn't funny. I'm like, I didn't say it was fun. What do I say? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
What do you do? So, yeah. So that's how they found out. And she went through the process. I get sent out, go to Germany. I'm waiting there for like 4 days till I'm stable. And then I get sent to Walter Reed Medical Center, which is down in Maryland, right outside of D.C. there. And that's when I got to see the family for the first time, like a week later.
Damn.
Yeah.
That's wild.
Yeah, so it was pretty crazy, and then that's what started.
So you have injuries, right? You have
Yeah.
what happened to what were your injury, like your total
It's like a lot of little. Like I tell people, it's a lot of little things. Like so this arm was blown in half. So like there was an open wound, and then they basically had to take my left arm and put it on the right one. So like there was this whole Humpty Dumpty surgery where they like pieced it back together. Yeah, dude was like, so you have a 12-hour surgery, you might come out with no arm. He's like, I'm like, okay, whatever. Like, you do what you gotta do. So they patched it up. It all works. This hand's like stuck just from like fractures and stuff, but like they had pins in it, like because my hands were just fractured. The doctor in Bagram said that they couldn't find my pinky, so they just, left it off. And like we don't know the whole story if it was like in a bag or something or it's just gone. But yeah, that, and then just blew part of my arm off. I have just injuries to my legs, like burns and shrapnel wounds. Blew a little chunk out of my left leg, and so. Yeah, I was very blessed to end the way I did. And I had like small stuff to the face, but that was very minimal.
Yeah, and you had a good medic.
Yeah, great medic. I mean, I could have been by myself. Like, it could have been like a doofus next to me. You know what I mean? Like, he was the dude. And we worked together all the time. And I would have, best person to get blown up next to. Like, he was standing there. All we had to do was find me and then just be like, all right, pop this tourniquet on. They put tourniquets all over me.
So God was like, you're going to go through something really bad, but I'm going to make it as good as it can.
I think that's how I feel like that all the time. I really said the same thing. It's like, it's going to suck, but
it's the best suck you can
do
get.
It. Yeah.
Especially when your buddy an hour ago ended up on a roof dead.
Yeah. Like it could be worse, or not having legs. Like I remember being in the hospital, the nurse comes in and she opens the thing to like do stuff. And she's like, oh, you have legs.
Wow.
And I'm like, it's that bad. Like the hospital was full. They had an overflow. They're everywhere. Nobody, actually everybody usually lost legs. Like it was very rare to see anything really else. I would feel like when I can think of, I'm like the most severe, stupid injury person. You know what I mean? Like just little things everywhere. And most people don't even know. Like you wouldn't even know, which is fine. I'd rather it that way, But yeah, a lot of the guys just lost their legs. I had one roommate. Dude was a monster. He was a MARSOC specialist, so he was special operations for the Marine Corps. Mm-hmm. He was a captain. He was on doing some special stuff, like kicking indoors and stuff. IED went off, lost both of his legs above the knee. He was one of my roommates, and he's sitting there, and he used to get like high visitors, like people from like way up there, because he was a top dude. And he's sitting there one day, and he's like, "How you doing, man?" I'm like, "Good." And he's like, "Yeah." He's like, "I can't wait to get back out there." He's like slapping his nub, and I'm like, "What do you mean, like outside? Like when's the last time you were outside?" And he's like, "No, I'm talking about Afghanistan, man. I'm going back." He went back to Afghanistan with fake legs.
Wow.
Dude, yeah.
Savage.
Cut from a different cloth, man. Yeah, those types of people are up there.
Dude.
I couldn't. I'm like, all the power to you,
So now you're obviously retired from the military, right?
Yeah. So like they gave me the option to like stay and just do like office work. They're like, you can do whatever you want. You can stay on the East Coast because your family's here, like work at the hospital, Wounded Warrior Battalion. Like that was like common. You can just like hang out and buy your time.
Yeah.
But I was like, I'm going to get stable enough to where we're going back to California. So like we both agreed that we're going right back. So once I was able to, we flew back to California and lived there for another like year and a half. And I was a training guy. I basically just set up training to like, because I couldn't handle a dog, but I could walk and talk and, drive around. So I would do like medical appointments and like therapy and stuff, so I would just be the trainer. Setting up IED lanes, like doing training, like teaching them stuff that I didn't know. Like you were talking about, like how would you know what to expect?
Yeah.
Now I do. So
That's
I go
huge.
in there being like, this is what you should expect. Yeah.
Yeah. Like it's best for guys that are going to be deployed to learn from you because you've been in it to the fullest. Right.
Yeah. Yeah. Like doing things like, so like one big thing I tell people all the time is like one interesting, little training thing I added was we set up this program where we did like a whole week of like a training package, just like classes in the morning and then like running dogs in the afternoon. And like there was this one day where we had like multiple lanes, like they would go do something fun, like jump over a river. One would just be like 1 mile search of nothing, right? Because like the dog is not always going to win, you know what I mean? And then get them a win somewhere else. So like just to teach them, because how many days did I search and not find a thing? Like almost all the time. So like there was little things like that. And there was this one time where I did like this post blast where we kind of disturbed dirt. I dug a crater and then I went and got MREs, MREs like the meals.
Yeah, the meals.
Yeah. So I got chili mac and like spaghetti and all this nonsense. And I kind of like took it and I just threw it all over the place. And I put it on sticks. I put it everywhere. I just made it look like a disaster. Essentially, I wanted to look like someone was blown up and there was body guts everywhere. So as they're searching down the thing, they come up to the blast and they're like just mosey, and their dog's sniffing every little 5 inches, like just this and that. And then it's trying to like pick up stuff and eat it, because that's a possibility too. And they're like freaking out, losing their minds. And I'm like, I'd rather you do that here than when you're over there searching for a blast and there's body parts all over the place, because that's going to hurt a lot more than this. So little things like that, just adding that little extra, like you said, like changing, training,
Proofing,
evolving, all the time. So it was fun. We did that. And in between that, I was like in between there and this Wounded Warrior Battalion, which is like a place they transition guys out of. So like you do all classes, like transition classes, like getting you set up with like different benefits and appointments. Like I had a lot of medical checkups and stuff. I had one other follow-up surgery where they tried to like fix my hand, stuff like weird stuff. Did all mental stuff, like so you had to go to like therapy and everything.
Sure.
And that's like kind of like what got me here today, is that she's like asking you questions, she's talking, and then she's like, well, why don't you take a journal and start writing down all your feelings and see if like you can remember anything about the day and write it down, and then come in and we can talk about it. Whatever you can remember, that's fine. So I wrote down everything pretty much how I told it to you, 6 pages just in a story. I read it to her. She starts like crying, and then she's like, go write a book. Like just put it down on paper and get it out there. And that's kind of how this whole thing started. It wasn't like, it's not like I got out being like, oh, I can't write about this, like I hate homework, like I wanted to get away from college, you know what I mean? Like I didn't like it. So it was always like an idea, and I tried really hard to like put pen to paper and like tell the stories of different people, and that's kind of how it all evolved.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's what your book is, Surviving with Grief. And is that grief there?
That's him. Yeah, I took that picture on a hill when we were with the Army. Like because we lived on the side of the road for like 3 days. So I was like, you know what? The sun looks beautiful. Just pose for me real quick.
Yeah, that's pretty.
Yeah, it was cool. You're just sitting there.
That's cool. And where can you get this book? Tell the people where they can, because there's a lot more to your story than what we just discussed here in a couple hours.
Yeah, like I touched on a couple things. But like most of it, like the premise of it is just like I wanted to memorialize not only the history of these dogs, but like all the guys that we lost too. Like, we always say like, people die once, but then they die again when you say their name for the last time. So like constantly tell the story, and I wanted to immortalize the ones that were there, and because that's why we're there doing what we're doing, But yeah, that's kind of the whole premise of it, and it was like surviving with him and then like surviving without him. You know what I mean? Like it's the whole thing. So I want people to understand that we were just normal kids, that became men overnight and, had to do this job, which happens to be the coolest job in the entire world. You know what I'm saying? So that's kind of how like I wanted to do that. But yeah, what I wound up doing is doing it on Amazon. You can just go on Amazon. Like you can write a book today and then publish it tomorrow. Like you just go on there, get KDP. So it's not like it's a hard thing. I didn't want to go through like a publisher or anything, because I've read books of other guys and other stories and they just botch it. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like when editors get involved and they're like, I don't like the way this sounds. I'm like, well, it's true.
That's how it happened, right?
Yeah. So it's 100% real, and how everything I experience, it's like, it became a evolution of the journal I kept overseas, just writing down feelings that I can talk about later. But
I love it, man. As you sent me your book before we did this, and I debated on reading it because I wanted a genuine story from you.
Yeah.
And I felt bad because I read some of it and I did some research to know like your story, but I was like, I was flipping back and forth. I was like, if I read the whole book,
this would be stupid.
I wouldn't, it wouldn't be genuine.
Yeah,
My curiosity wouldn't be genuine. I wouldn't
100%.
be, like, I knew that your dog had passed in war, but I didn't know how it happened.
Right.
I didn't know the context. And I felt like if I read the book, it would be disingenuous. And so.
Absolutely.
That's an incredible story. And, as somebody who just basically turns my head to what's going on in the world, I really appreciate what you do and, other military people do, because I know for a fact, like we're here talking about in our United States, we're talking about who's going to be a boy or a girl, right?
I know, right?
Or we're talking about, all this bullshit that doesn't, I'm not going to say it doesn't matter, because it matters to these people, but the real focus and the things that we should be talking about is the things that you guys are doing. That is like nobody, like granted, we're not in the war that we were in when you were there in 2008 plus, right?
Right.
But at the same time, it's like people need to hear your story and hear the things that you went through, because these things are big deals. I mean, you're over there fighting for us, you're fighting for your country, you're fighting for your family, and you're putting your life on the line. And there's guys that are, dying all around you.
Yeah.
And you're going through these really traumatic things. And I feel like it's sad to not have, your story told at like the biggest scale we can. So people can get this on Amazon.
Yep, it's on Amazon. Yep, just
Surviving with Grief.
just type it in. I think it comes in like 8 hours. It'll be on your porch in like 2 minutes.
Cool.
Yeah,
and check it out. Check out the story of Alfred and the things that he's done. And like I said, I'm just super happy that. And like I said, we get people all the time. They're like, I want to come on and talk about my new CBD oil, and I'm like, I'm just like, that's cool, but I'm just not interested in it. And when I saw you,
I know most of your stuff is like hour, 2 hour, like, you want to have sub material, but then you get stuck with someone, like you said, talking about doggy essential oils or something. It's tough. Like,
that's why I wanted to hear your story, man. Cause like I said, like my grandfather being a Marine.
That's cool. I didn't know that. That's awesome.
Yeah. He was, we had actually, that Posey County sign over there. He started a, real estate company when he went to the Marines and went to war in World War II, which was just as horrendous as some of the stuff that you've seen, and if not more, because back in the day, I would assume they were like, we don't want to hear about what you went through, go back to work.
Yep.
Or now it's like
get a real job or something.
Counseling, talking about it, journaling.
Yeah.
Are there things that you do right now for your mental health to make sure that, like, are you battling things right now? And if so, like, what are the things that you're doing right now to help with that trauma?
Honestly, it was a lot of physical in the beginning, a lot of physical, so much so that like I didn't have much mental. But I also realized the most important thing about the mental was having support and love from your family. Like, that's the biggest thing, is feeling wanted, feeling appreciated, having that push. You know what I mean? Like, I've always been resilient, but to have those people around you, like my wife, like literally would like wipe me like for the first like 2 or 3 months. You know what I mean? Like that intense of like, some people didn't have that. You know what I mean? Like there's a guy in the hospital for 6 months on suicide watch because like he was just upset. You know what I mean? Like he had issues, no family, no nobody. So like that was huge. My biggest struggle, and honestly even to today, is finding a place to fit in. You know what I mean? Like I still struggle with that too. Like what do I do? Like I've done a couple of things here and there. I actually worked a prison program for dogs. They were trying to turn, they do train dogs in prison for adoption. They wanted to make service dogs out of them. And I'm like, that's slightly unrealistic because, like, do you have escalators in prison? You know what I mean? Like, it was, in my opinion, it was hard, but it was a great experience. I learned so much. So I've done, like, odds and end jobs here. I'll blow your mind. I actually did real estate for, like, 8 years, like, literally from, like, 14 to, like, COVID. So it's a weird connection, but I stopped that at COVID. So I'm just always trying to find my place. And, like, I'd love to be in the dog sector again. It's just handling is, like, really tough. Like, I can handle most dogs, but, like, bite work and stuff. Like, all my buddies are doing, super awesome training. You know what I mean? But just to be around it's awesome. So I'm trying to insert myself as best I can. So.
And what about like scent detection? Is that something that you're still passionate about? Is it something that you're?
Yeah, I mean, I would love to do stuff like that. Like it's just a matter of like, jobs and stuff, you know what I mean? So it's like, I'm always keeping my options open. I'm just still trying to figure out my way. What consumed the last 2 years of my life was like, I've been doing this project for like 10 years, like off and on, like school, the book, like juggling this with anything else was almost hard. So then once I stopped doing like my job as a realtor, I kind of dove into this at COVID, really pushed it during COVID. And then by 2023, I was like, it's ready. Like me and my wife just edited it like 6 times. Like I edited it. I use like Grammarly. Like, yeah. I mean, you can pay for an editor, but it's like $2,000. Yeah. So like did everything ourselves, all the art, everything is our own. So like I did everything from start to finish. And by 2023, I'm like, it's got to be done. It's like a painting or something that or like a sculpture where you're like, oh, I could do it better this way.
Yeah.
But at one point you just got to do it. And now I'm just hopefully trying to push it as much as I can because I don't have like a PR team or anything. So it's like all me. Like I'm sending out 1 million emails a day, in New York, just like knocking on news stations being like, hey, you want to talk? You know what I mean? So just trying to get it out there as much as I can. Because then once it takes a while, but once it goes, it should hopefully go,
Yeah.
There's so like 63 million dog people in the country. Like,
yeah, man, it's out there.
Yeah. And like 4 people bought it already. So I'm like, where are you dog people? But then I get bad feedback, dude. I'll do like table events.
Yeah.
I've only done like 3, but I'll have someone come up, see the title, and they're like, if the dog dies, I'm not buying it. And I'm like, okay, A, the dog's name is Grief. B, he does die, and that's the awesome part of the story. You know what I mean? Like, the people, you know how they are. Like, people are just weird dog, those weird dog people. Yeah.
Yeah, and you need context too. I think it's important. Like, I think if somebody were to look at it's weird, man. Like, your story is so powerful, and it's such a reminder of like how we just walk through life complaining about how our fucking coffee wasn't hot enough or whatever. Like, you don't have oat milk. And you're out there, trying to live. There's thousands of soldiers out there right now doing the same thing. So anyway, so the people who are listening, people who are watching, I'll leave the link in the description where they can find your book.
Awesome.
Is there anything else you want to plug? Any websites or anything you want to say?
I mean, if you just Google that, it comes right up. So like,
Surviving with Grief.
Yeah.
Alfred Brenner. Brenner?
Yeah, Brenner. Yeah, the fourth.
Kind of like
the fourth.
The fourth.
You like that joke?
Yeah, the fourth. Oh, is it the fourth? I thought that's the fifth. What's the 5 then? Is that
Abby? Can we look that up?
Abby? Can you?
Can we look that up?
Abby, come on, look it up. Pull it up for me, Abby. Abby's gonna become my new Jamie for
That's
Joe
what
Rogan.
I was about to say. I was like, yeah, can we get that up there?
Yeah. Well,
Next time you have to do way more research. It's fun when they like fact. Actually, it's not that fun because then we looked idiots. Like, when did they kill Osama bin Laden? Like,
no,
yesterday?
it's good. I think, but no. Here's the
It's good
thing.
to educate them though too. Like, because I didn't know.
I think it's important. Like, when I'm listening to somebody that's like, I just want to relate to somebody. It's hard for me to learn from somebody I can't relate to.
Right.
Either on an emotional level or an intelligence level. Like,
yeah.
I'll listen to Jordan Peterson and I'm like,
Yeah.
emotionally, I think we're the same, but intelligence, obviously, we're not.
Dude,
but
it's so funny you said that. I listened to him and Joe's thing last night.
Yeah, it's
like
good.
bounced between you and him, and I'm like, well, let me just like pop on Joe. It's usually good. And when that dude started talking, I almost fell asleep. Like, I'm like, where's the guide rail? Like,
But there's like my father-in-law, just like, I'm like, Fred, what's that mean? What's that word mean?
Yeah.
What's this mean? So it's like, so I think it's important to just be real. Like, I couldn't tell you exactly what, but people, like, there's certain people that can remember dates. Like, my wife's one of them. I think women in general are just like more strategic about like memory and stuff like that. Like, she remembers all that. And I'm like, I think it's just, importance. But anyway, man, it's a pleasure having you on. Thank you so much for coming. And again, you guys can get Surviving with Grief. I'll leave the link for the book, and go and buy it and support it and read it. It's a great story. There's more than what we talked about today. So appreciate you, man. Thank you.
Thanks, man. Appreciate it.